happy about that. So we'll start the February 13th call to order the Metropolitan Planning Commission. Appreciate everybody coming down here. Our first order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Commissioners, this was given to you prior to the meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? It's been a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. And we are on to item C of the agenda, which is the approval of the January 16th, 2020 minutes. Those were also given to you prior to the meeting. Any questions, edits, additions? There's been a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the January 16th minutes 2020 have been adopted. And before we get on to the council members, I did see a lot of former council members and even a former state legislator, and I just want to say thank you for coming down. I saw Councilman Ludi Wallace, Councilman Jamie Isabel, Councilman Chris Whitson, and Representative Gary Moore. We appreciate your service and appreciate you guys coming down. So on to the current council members, and we just take these as we see y'all come in. So Councilman Hall, would you like to go first, or go now, or go during your items? Okay, perfect. And then Councilwoman Hancock, is she? You're going to wait? Okay, thank you, Council Lady. Thanks for coming down. So we are now on to item E, which is, and I didn't see any other council members. I'll make sure is there any other council members? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to item E, which is items for deferral withdrawal. Sean.
All right. Items for deferral or withdrawal, beginning with item 1A on page 4 of your agenda, 2019 CP 014001, Donaldson Hermitage Old Hickory Community Plan Amendment to amend the community plan for property located on Swinging Bridge Road. The staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. The associated case, item 1B, 2019 Z158PR001, a request to rezone from CS to R10 for property on Swinging Bridge Road, deferred to February 27th Planning Commission meeting. Item 2A on page 5, 2019 CP 014002, a request to amend the Donaldson Hermitage Old Hickory Community Plan for properties along Lebanon Pike. The staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. And the associated case 2020 Z019 PR001, a request to rezone for property on Lebanon Pike, and the staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item number 3, 2020 Z001 TX001. The staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 5, 2019 SP 047001, the Nipfer Corner SP. The staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 8 on page 6 of your agenda, 2020 Z001 PR001, request to rezone from CS and MUL to MUGA for properties on Rosa Parks Boulevard. The staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item 12A on page 7 of your agenda, 2020 CP 002001, request to amend the Parkwood Union Hill Community Plan for property on Springfield Highway. The staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item 12B, 2020 Z023 PR001, request to rezone for property on Springfield Highway, and the staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item 13 on page 8 of your agenda, 2009 SP 022013, the Mansion at Fontenelle Amendment, which is a request to amend a specific plan. And the staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 21 on page 9 of your agenda, 2020 Z003 PR001, request to rezone property on Due West Avenue North. The staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Item 26 on page 10, 2020Z022PR001, a request to rezone property on Old Hickory Boulevard. The staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 28 on page 11 of your agenda, 2020Z032PR001, request to rezone property on Scoville Street. The staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. And item 29, 2020Z033PR001, a request to rezone property located at 819 Watts Lane. The staff recommendation is to defer to the February 27th Planning Commission meeting. And as a note for our audience, the items being deferred to the February 27th meeting, that meeting will be held here at the school board building due to early voting and elections.
Thank you, Sean. So, commissioners, the items for defer withdrawal, we'll go through these slow and make sure I get these right, Sean, okay? Bless you. Items 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3, 5, 8, 12A, 12B, 13, 21, 26, 28, and 29. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, commissioners, you've heard those items for withdrawal or deferral. Is there a motion? It's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and those items are for defer withdrawal. And as Sean said, I do apologize to everyone about the location, but it's early voting in our normal Howard School location, and so the parking I know is a little tight here. So we do apologize for the inconvenience. All right, item F, consent agenda.
All right. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. As noticed to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. So items on consent, beginning with item number 6 on page 6 of your agenda, 2019 SP 072001, the Trinity 24 SP. It's a request to rezone from RS 7.5, RS 20, and MUNA to SP zoning for properties located at 869 West Trinity Lane and Old Buena Vista Road, to permit 427 multifamily residential units and to retain the uses and bulk regulations of MUNA zoning on parcel 192. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item 7, 2019 S080001, the Resub Maxim Holdings LLC property. This is a request for a final plat to create 3 lots on property located at 4341 Old Goins Road. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item 14 on page 8 of your agenda, 2019 SP 022001, West Trinity Villages. A request to rezone from R6 to SPMU zoning for properties located at 701 Inlow Street. The staff recommendation to permit a mixed-use development. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 16, 2020 S026001, a re-subdivision plat of lots 9 and 10. It's a request for final plat approval to create 3 lots on properties at 2411 and 2413 Booker Street. The staff recommendation is to approve. Item 17 on page 9 of your agenda, 2020 HL 001001, a request to apply a historic landmark overlay district on property located at 1006 Monroe Street. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item 18, 2014 NL 001003, the Gallatin Pike Townhomes, a request for development plan approval on property located at 4309 Gallatin Pike, zoned OR 20 and within the Gallatin Pike UDO and Gallatin Pike Neighborhood Landmark Overlay District to permit 12 multifamily residential units. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item 19, 6187P001, the 1610 16th Avenue South PUD cancellation. A request to cancel a commercial planned unit development overlay district for property located at 1610 16th Avenue South. The staff recommendation is to approve. Item 20, 2019Z115PR001, request to rezone from R8 to RM20 zoning for a portion of property located on West Trinity Lane. The staff recommendation is to approve. Item 22 on page 10 of your agenda, 2020Z006PR001, request to rezone from CL and OR20 to MUGA zoning for properties located at 321, 325, and 329 West Trinity Lane. The staff recommendation is to approve. Item 24, 2020Z015PR001, a request to rezone from R40 to R6 zoning for property located at 1201 Watts Terrace. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item 25, 2020Z021PR001, request to rezone from RS5 to R6A zoning for properties located at 2700 and 2703 Marina Street. The staff recommendation is to approve. Item 27, 2020Z031PR001, request to rezone from CS to OG zoning for property located at 324 Plus Park Boulevard. And under other business, item 33, accept the director's report.
Thank you, Sean. Commissioners, you've heard the consent agenda items, but we'll go through these really carefully to make sure we got these. And it's items number 6, 7, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 24, 25, 27, and 33. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Commissioners, you've heard those items for the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
Yes, Chairman.
Commissioner Johnson.
I have a question on item number 6 and item number 24. So,
All right. Go ahead. Start with 6.
sure. Item number 6. That is SP. On that, there will be a new street created, A and B. So I'm assuming that will be a public street, not a private street. So developer will be responsible to construct with the Metro Public Works definition and then dedicated to the Metro. Is that how it works?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, they would be building to Metro standards,
Okay.
and then once built and inspected, then they would be accepted for maintenance.
Okay, just wanted to make it sure. And also, I understand 919 and 917 Day Street. Currently, they do have eastbound access to West Trinity Lane, but seems like after new development, they will lose that access. Instead, they have to go westwards and go around to get on the West Trinity Lane. So those homeowners, are they in agreement as far as you know?
I can't speak for those homeowners, but I know that the developer has reached out to them and that there have been community meetings. So it is changing the access a bit. Day Street is an undersized, not accepted for maintenance at this point, and so this will be actually putting them onto roads that are accepted for maintenance.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure, because I think nobody reached out to Planning Commissioner's website regarding those from those two addresses, but just wanted to make sure those issues raised.
And then what's the next number that you have?
Yes, sir. Next one is item number 24, Watts Lane, changing R40 to R6. I think this one was deferred at the last meeting due to community meeting was not held. And I think there was some question was raised from the community, or maybe a Council Lady Murphy, some of your constituents reach out to you with a question. Right. So just making sure follow-up was
And just
done.
a housekeeping note, there's no button on you just have to kind of talk into the microphone and it will pick you up.
It will just
So
hear
be
me.
careful, when you're, don't talk
Gotcha.
unless you're,
Yes.
okay.
Can I respond?
Yeah,
I
yes,
did
yeah,
bump this last time from consent because I had some questions and concerns about stormwater. It was, sorry to rush in and not have all my thoughts together. Traffic. Somebody should do something about that. So thank you, Council Lady, because it was something that there were a number of constituents here about asking about whether there was a community meeting or not. And so I think it would be best to bump it to talk through stormwater issues and hear from the community.
Well, we can do that now to see if anyone's here, or we can do it when we get to the item. So would you prefer to do it when we get to the item? You want to bump it from the consent?
Yeah, so I'm in favor of bump off the item number 24 of the consent.
Okay.
So we can discuss.
Is there any objection? I want to make sure. Without objection, 24. And is the applicant here? Do we know?
Yes, the applicant's here. We didn't have any signups from anyone else.
Okay.
The applicant is here.
Perfect. We'll bump without objection. We'll take 24 off the consent, and then when we get to it, we can see if there's anybody here and if there's questions. And we can also, before we hear it, we can get it. If you have a question about stormwater, we can have stormwater talk about it, unless y'all want to hear it. So we'll do that when we get to that particular item. Any other questions?
That would be all for me. Thank you,
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you, Commissioner. Seeing none, you've heard those items, but let's go through it. I like to get a good, clean, crisp record. My attorney, he's like shaking his head, yes, that's a good idea. So we're not, so everyone is on the same page. So on the consent agenda, these items are the ones that you are voting on, and they are items 6, 7, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25, 27, and 33. Any questions? Is that right, Sean? Keep us straight? Okay. You've heard the items. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? It's been a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the consent agenda is adopted. And now we are on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. And just as a reminder, I know there's some new people in the room that potentially want to speak. I just want to remind everybody that this is the public hearing portion, and we try to be extremely professional, so no heckling, no clapping, no booing. Keep it professional, always address the chair, and don't make it personal. So we appreciate everyone coming down, and we are on. So the item, here, I'm getting ahead of myself again. So the items that we are going to hear for everyone in the audience and the commissioners are items number 4, 9, 10A and B, 11A and B, 15, 23, and 24. Is that right, Sean? Or Lisa? Lisa, okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. All right, so item number 4.
Item number 4 is a proposed text amendment, and this is a request to amend Title 17 of the zoning code related to short-term rental properties not owner-occupied. As submitted,
Lisa, sorry to interrupt you. I think we've got number 3 on. We had so many STR proposals. That's okay. Sorry for interrupting you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's a different short-term rental text amendment.
There's only 100 of them.
Let's start over. So item number 4 is a proposed amendment to Title 17 of the Metro Code, the zoning code, and this is related to owner-occupied short-term rental properties. As submitted, the bill would prohibit all bedrooms to be advertised for availability for a short-term rental, and it would also require that an owner be absent from a site no more than 15 consecutive hours while guests are present. Just as a bit of a reminder in regards to the history on where we are with short-term rental properties and the regulation thereof in Nashville. In January of 2018, the council adopted a countywide framework for short-term rentals, BL 2017-608. It created two categories of short-term rentals, owner-occupied and not owner-occupied. Following adoption of that, the state of Tennessee adopted the Short-Term Rental Unit Act. In August of 2019, the council adopted a revision to the current regulations, 2019-1633, which removed not owner-occupied short-term rentals from RM districts. This essentially was bringing consistency to the residential-only districts. It also further refined the standards of the zoning code to bring them into consistency with the state-adopted Short-Term Rental Act. After staff reviewed this proposal and consulted with our codes department, we're recommending a substitute. And we have further refined that substitute following the last hearing at the Planning Commission. And so previously staff had recommended approval of a substitute that would, number one, remove the homeowner absence provision because of inability to enforce such a provision. And we would also recommend a refinement of the standard that would prohibit whole home rental of owner-occupied units, as opposed to saying that you can't rent all bedrooms, just to prohibit whole home rentals. That is also something that is trackable through host compliance, which is our monitoring software. Following the public hearing at the Planning Commission on January 16th, we've consulted with Metro Legal and with Metro Codes and have further refined, and essentially we've added an exemption to say that legally permitted DADUs, detached accessory dwelling units, and legally permitted accessory apartments are exempt from the whole home regulation. We heard from a lot of people saying, if I have a DADU, I can advertise that as a whole home. I'm still on site. And so essentially we've exempted legally permitted DADUs and legally permitted accessory apartments just to further refine the standards. And so staff recommends approval with a substitute that would do those two things, removing the homeowner absence provision and refining which types of units are exempt.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll open this item for public hearing. And the councilman in this instance is the applicant. And I don't see the councilman here. So we go right into anyone wishing to speak in support. I want to make sure we get everybody. Seeing no one. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up, and we welcome you, and you get 2 minutes to speak, and we appreciate you coming down. And please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Elise Ronzino. I reside at 1027 McClurkin Avenue, 37206. I respectfully request 5 minutes to speak on behalf of an organization, the
Which one is
the
it?
Nashville Area Short-Term Rental Association.
Sure, yep. But let me remind, so generally, it's a writ, so per our rules, generally, it's a writ. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Thank
Please,
you.
5 minutes.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you. Sorry.
service to our community and for taking time to listen to us once again. On behalf of the Nashville Area Short-Term Rental Association, our 250-plus members and myself, I would like to share our opposition and ask you to vote no on this bill. This legislation is of particular interest to me personally, as I've been a permitted owner-occupied host here in Nashville for over 5 years now. While 99% of the time I rent out just a bedroom in my home, I'm thankful for the option to rent out my entire home when I'm traveling for work or on vacation. This bill would jeopardize the ability to continue to do so for both myself and countless other owner-occupied hosts here in the city. We appreciate and support the staff recommendation to remove the homeowner absence prohibition as well as the exemption for DADUs, as mandating that a property owner to be on the premises for a certain number of hours would be difficult to enforce, as you guys concluded. However, we do have numerous other concerns. The stated goal of the bill is to simplify enforcement, which strikes us as a troubling reason to create new legislation. Enforcement of the short-term rental laws and regulations already in place should and could be occurring without the addition of even more prohibitions. The City of Nashville spent almost $1 million on the host compliance tool, yet it remains largely underutilized with over 1,000 unpermitted STRs continuing to operate. I'm sure you can understand how frustrating and disappointing that is for those of us who work really hard to operate in compliance and within the regulatory boundaries. Enforcement should be able to be prioritized without having to pass yet another law in order to do so. The data that host compliance provides the Codes Department regarding unpermitted STRs can and should be investigated in order to shut down those who are knowingly cheating the system at the expense of law-abiding citizens. As an organization, we advocate for responsible home sharing in compliance with all local regulations. As such, we support efforts to weed out those who make false claims of residency in order to obtain an owner-occupied permit. Owner-occupied status should only belong to those who actually live in their home. The aim of simplifying enforcement could also be achieved with stricter requirements for proving residency, such as no longer accepting easily adjusted items like bank statements. A true resident would have no problem supplying what's needed without that one as an option. It seems unjustified to restrict genuine owner-occupied hosts from renting our entire home when we travel, as many musicians, nurses, educators, and senior citizens do, as a means to weed out the fraudulent hosts. Enforcement should not come at the expense of those following the law. Another concern we have is how enforcement would work in light of the Tennessee State Short-Term Rental Unit Act. The state law grandfathers in permit holders under the laws that were in place at the time that their permits were obtained. If Codes is going to initiate enforcement action against owner-occupied whole home listings flagged by host compliance, this will put undue and improper burden in terms of time, money, and legal defense on those who should not be impacted by such enforcements due to grandfathered status. It seems inevitable that many of us will be forced to legally and expensively defend our state-granted right of grandfathering because of how challenging it would be within Codes to track the laws that were in place when each permit was issued prior to enforcing a new regulation of this nature. In light of these concerns, we oppose this bill and respectfully request that you take these issues into consideration and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Welcome.
My name is Sandy Beasley. I live at 1002B Knowlton Avenue, Nashville 37204. I sent a lengthy email earlier this week. I hope some of you had a chance to read that. I am an owner-operator. I am not a dadu. I don't have a walkout basement. My housing is affordable because I am able to share my home. I cannot state, nobody I have shared my home with, I don't share all the time, it is my home, it is my primary residence. Nobody I share my home with would have stayed in my home if I were there. I mentioned in my email I would be the uninvited guest, I would be the party crasher. I have grandparents come in for baby dedications. I have a Brazilian mother come in to cook for her son who's finishing at Vanderbilt. I have a sensory-sensitive boy who comes to my home because a home is more normal for him than a hotel. I can go on and on with the people that I gladly share my home with, my neighborhood with. When I was permitted, I didn't just reach out to the neighbors that I was asked to reach out to. I reached out to many of my neighborhoods. My neighbors, I love my street, I love my neighborhood, I love their support. I'm a 5-star super host. I've given 5 stars to every guest I've had. I've had no complaints. My neighbors have my phone number. I'm concerned because although I greatly appreciate the exemptions you're giving to dadus and walkouts, you don't leave room for me. I can't be in my home. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter in West Nashville that I go to stay with. I have a daughter recently divorced in East Nashville that likes to have a sleepover with mom occasionally. I'm not always there. If I'm not there, I host. My husband is working out of state. I go visit him occasionally when he's not in town. Anyway, I'd just like for you to know there are many of us who host responsibly that are not in our homes when we host, and it's not an option for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I want to see if the councilman's here. I didn't see him. And so, seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Vice Chair, you want to go first?
You know, I just keep struggling with this one. I don't. Director, you implied that this is a source of a lot of the owner-occupied that are getting leased out entirely as a source of a significant number of complaints. Is that correct?
In speaking with members of our law department, and perhaps our attorney may want to speak to this more specifically, but there has been a fair amount of legal issues that have come up due to how we define owner-occupied, demonstrating who's owning the property or not. And, you know, our hope with this is to create very specific definitions for how we define that use. Because I think a lack of clarity is partly what has created some of the issues here. So we do think it's important to clarify what owner-occupied means. Now, it might be helpful to note that the grandfathering provisions do apply here. Council, share anything else?
Right. So any person who has a short-term rental permit who is currently operating, I think a lot of people may already know this, but it may be helpful just for the purpose of the record. If you're currently operating this legislation because of the state law, that the Short-Term Rental Property Unit Act that was referenced by staff, those properties are unaffected. Whatever the law was when you began holding your property out as a short-term rental property continues to be the law unless you sell the property, transfer it, stop using it for 30 continuous months, or you are found guilty of violating a generally applicable law 3 separate times. So anyone who's currently operating would be unaffected by this legislation. The other thing I wanted to touch on just a little bit is I think there was an idea that current operators may be subjected to legal proceedings and then forced to, in other words, present proof that they are in fact grandfathering. My understanding of how it works is if this property was flagged as a whole home unit, it's not a process where it immediately goes to litigation or it immediately goes to a lawsuit. What would happen at that point, if the property is flagged by host compliance as one that's a whole home rental, it would go to the codes department. The codes department can use the host compliance tracking software to determine the property location. They would then go to that permittee's short-term rental application and determine when they first started using their home as a short-term rental. So if that is after this act has passed, then, if that was before this act is passed, then they know that this property is not in violation of the law that prohibits whole home rentals, and they wouldn't initiate a lawsuit against that property. However, if the property was permitted after this law is passed, then in that instance, they would probably send a warning letter first, and if the property doesn't come into compliance after receiving that notice of violation, at that point, litigation would probably ensue. But it's not something where it's immediately, the burden is not put on the property owner to come in and demonstrate their grandfathered status.
So for the folks that we heard at the last meeting and today, they would not be impacted at this point by this, assuming they have a current permit that's, okay.
It would be only, and that would remain the law until this passes. And at that point, all new permittees would be subject to that law, but anyone who's currently legally operating would not.
And assuming they maintain their permit going forward and continue to renew it annually, they would be grandfathered in.
Right. So long as they don't sell the property, transfer it,
okay,
cease 30 continuous months of use, or are found guilty of violating a generally applicable law 3 separate times.
Okay. I mean, so from the perspective of changing the rules halfway through the game, we are protecting existing homeowners, new homeowners. I mean, I do understand. I mean, I have a couple of things. One, what you just said, Director, about defining owner-occupied. Well, I would say I go on vacation 2 weeks a year, several times a year, and my home I would certainly consider an owner-occupied home, even though I'm not there for 2 weeks at a time. So I do struggle a little bit with, like, what's the definition of an owner-occupied? I mean, any one of us could leave our house for 2 weeks at a stretch, and it would still be.
Right, but I think in Nashville, we've spent the last 2 years trying to define standards around non-owner occupied and where
Right.
that's appropriate, and owner occupied and where that's appropriate.
Right.
And so in this city, given the regulatory framework that we've developed, I think it's become important to help both property owners and neighborhoods know the lay of the land
Right.
because of how we've set both of these different uses up.
Okay. I even struggle with this being in our purview, even though I understand why it is. But I think a lot of the issues that are coming up are really outside of our direct oversight. So, I do see the benefit of approving this and allowing it to go forward to council where there can be an additional discussion around some of the issues and other carve-outs that might be, I think from a land use perspective, where this is now makes sense. I also do feel better about the idea that we're not changing the rules, for someone who bought their house last year thinking this would be a way for them to afford it. I don't want to take away that opportunity for them, for those that are acting responsibly. So
I just want to say, I think that is an important note, and the chairman mentioned it at the last meeting, that, we really do focus on land use here, and we had a series of very important public discussions around where non-owner occupied and occupied is appropriate. That was absolutely our purview. I think when you get into operational standards, we do want to very much rely on Metro Council to take into account some of those factors. We do share a recommendation, but I think that's an important point. Yeah.
So with that, I'll listen to my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Tibbs.
Just for I understand what exactly are we changing again about because we have stricken about the owner for the 15 consecutive hours. What is still there about regarding that requirement? And I apologize. I think I may have gotten a little confused just listening to the comments.
Sure. So when the bill was filed, it included a provision that said that you cannot rent all bedrooms in a home, owner occupied, and that the owner could not be absent for more than 15 hours. It's not uncommon after a bill has been filed and that we are reviewing it as a technical review with codes, that we will make suggested substitutions, changes to the bill. So two of the things that we changed was we struck the part about not being able to rent all bedrooms and simplified it to say no whole home rentals. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that we completely struck the absence provision where it said you couldn't be gone for a certain amount of time. We took that out completely because of enforcement issues. So that was kind of the first round of changes. And then what we did after the last Planning Commission meeting was to further refine it and to add in and say that if you're a legally permitted detached accessory dwelling unit or a legally permitted accessory unit, that you're exempt from that whole home advertisement prohibition.
I believe that, based on, we're refining this, and I think we appreciate the comments that we're getting from the people that come, that we're getting this tighter. I do feel like as we look to try to conserve our neighborhoods and just the continuity of it, I think this is a good step toward it, and I'm in support of moving forward with this.
Councilor.
Thank you. I've got, Lisa, so I see where y'all have changed. So we'll be shall not advertise the availability of entire/whole home, rather than saying all the bedrooms within the unit. Not being an attorney, those seem like synonyms to me. They seem like the same thing. What's the difference between all the bedrooms in the home and the whole home? What's that difference?
The difference is that whole home is the terminology that would be used on the platforms. And that is something that could be flagged from host compliance, as opposed to us having to try to monitor
and count bedrooms.
How many bedrooms are in a unit. It's just a simplification of the same idea.
Okay. Because I guess that's what I was going to say. I guess a bedroom is defined by having a closet. How is a bedroom defined in the code? Oh, it's a window? I thought they had to have a closet. Okay, so they got to have a window. Good to know. And then I see on Airbnb, I've seen like where they'll list, like full bed, king bed, and pull-out couch. How do we, so if somebody says, so if I have a 3-bedroom house and I list it as a 2-bedroom house with a pull-out couch, that couch actually happens to be in a bedroom. Is that a way to get around this whole home room thing where you're saying, I have pull-out couches or I have a blow-up mattress available?
You generally have to choose if it's shared space, whole home, it's the type of listing.
Okay.
And so it would indicate whole home. It doesn't matter really how you're describing it in a listing. It's how the listing is classified. And whole home is a type of the listings.
So I could still, if I have a 3-bedroom home, still say it's a shared or partial home, but list 3 bedrooms.
Right. The way that the listings work is there's a premium placed on a whole home, though. So if it's a shared space, I don't know that you would list it necessarily as a shared space if you were renting the whole home.
I just feel like maybe we're creating another loophole by me listing my house as a shared space, listing, the 3 queen size beds that I have in my home, my imaginary home here, listing as a shared space, but putting in my comments or having my people comment, it was great, Kathleen's never there, she's enjoyable.
And if there were complaints, really the enforcement to some extent is complaint driven. If there were complaints and they said Kathleen is not actually sharing her space, then that would be how it would be enforced.
My brother would probably say that I'm not a good sharer, so.
Well, and I would say currently bedrooms are unregulated as it is. So
Okay.
if I think there's a maximum amount of bedrooms, which is 4. So someone could still only have 4 bedrooms. There's a maximum amount of occupants, which is 12, I believe. But someone could put on there to have 20 beds or 50 beds. There's no regulation on that currently.
Okay, I guess I thought there was. I'm just worried that there is another little loop-de-loo that we'll just come back and have to address, which I'm pretty sure every 6 months of the rest of my term I will be doing that, and whoever's after me and after me and after me and so on and so forth. I'm not speaking on behalf of the councilman right now, but I would like to say that there are 4 to 5 community meetings and other council committee meetings tonight. So if there's a lack of council turnout, just to write an excuse note for us. We do have 4 or 5 community meetings and things tonight. So I'm still torn with this. I think it's a move in the right direction. I'm still not 100% sure that we're getting the ends to the means or it's the means to the ends that we want, but it gets us closer to some more control over the problem.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. I think this new substitute is definitely improvement from the original bill because, stay there 15 hours of 24 hours is impractical and unenforceable. So having from that, this proposed substitute is going into the right direction. However, I share same concern because, listing a whole house, it's like somebody will have, 2-bedroom condominium, and then they may list as 2 bedrooms times 2 is 4 plus 4, so they can sleep up to 8 people. And I think it's our legal definition of allowable short-term rental. So if that's the listing, will it trigger to the host compliance?
The way this is all going to be complaint driven anyway. And so it won't be host compliance like monitoring and trying. It would be if someone says, I think that this person is renting their whole home even though they have an owner-occupied unit, then we could go to host compliance and they would be able to to flag it to see if they're actually have it listed, checked as whole home. Does that make sense?
Yes. So in other words, probably give some neighbor who would like to complain about the short-term rental, unwanted short-term rental, because some neighbor will tell you some short-term rental they welcome because they're good neighbors and they enjoy. Some neighbor will say that, and on the other hand, some neighbor is like, oh, that's a party house we really don't enjoy. So not every short-term rental operator operate as the same. So by introducing this, I'm not sure if we are improving our land use policy or enforceability of short-term rental. So I understand the intent of the council member who would like to introduce and make more quality of life into residential neighborhood, but I am not sure if this proposed short-term rental ordinance will accomplish that goal. So I'm interested to hear other commissioners.
Commissioner Moore.
So I think I have some of the same concerns, but I can agree. I wasn't here for the last meeting, but I was able to go back and watch the public hearing and hear some of the comments. So I really do appreciate the improvements that have been made in the substitute to address some of those issues. But I still think there's a lot of possibility for sticky situations. I'm not sure if there's anything that we can really do from here. I think, Vice Chair, you mentioned like it's a good thing this is going on to be discussed at the council level, because there is still quite a few things that have to be addressed that I'm not really sure that we can really do at this point.
Mr. Gabel?
Again, I want to compliment staff. I think this is consistent with what we discussed the last time. I support this change. I do think that for the rest of my term and a lot of other terms, that we will continue to define something that none of us could predict 6 years ago. So I think the definition of a bedroom, or what definition of how this is all work, is going to continue to morph, and we'll just have to do the best we can as we go forward. But if it's our policy to say that there's an owner-occupied unit that's different than a non-owner-occupied unit, that definition has got to be articulated somehow. And I think this takes a step in that right direction.
Mr. Sims?
I think I share Commissioner Fowler's concerns. I never quite know, and there's a lot of discussion in our city right now, what really falls under the purview of our council and what falls under land use, because as we get more density and more problems, it's starting to be it's just a huge workload for planning, and most cities have such a strict zoning code that we don't do 30 cases, they do 3 or 4 cases, and so this is kind of a problem of trying to have a lot of flexibility in our zoning code. Having said all that, I'm really glad that Councilman O'Connell started this and he'll end this, because I don't know how we fix terminology. The problem is the right problem to address. This is one solution, but I think this needs the wisdom of our council. And I don't even know quite how to would make a move in terms of land use about this. So that's my 2 cents worth.
All right, we need a motion. Oh, Counselor, yes.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this, but I am going to, I guess, also make a request, maybe in reverse order. I do think before these bills come before these proposals come before the Planning Commission, because again, this isn't the last one, right? And we're going to have more, and we have others. I think that it's not necessarily fair that Lisa's over here trying to explain how host compliance is going to do their job. I think that we pay host compliance enough that they should be. We need to, like, whether it's you, director, or the commission needs to be asking every time one of these is filed. Just like we have the recommendations from the, the fire department on a rezone, I think host compliance should be submitting a report to us about how they will enforce it. And if that's something that I need to pass legislatively, then draft it and send it over. But I think for any of the bills in the future, let's talk about how that needs to happen, because I think I don't think it's fair for planning staff or zoning staff to be questioning. We pay them enough, they should be telling us how they do their job. So with that, I would, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Very good point, and I think the director can make that happen.
Yes.
So we appreciate that, Council Lady. And so the motion is to approve the substitute. Is that correct, Council Lady?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's a motion to approve the substitute. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and the substitute is adopted. And we are now on to item number 9.
Item number 9 is a request. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to move this. Well, Can you hear me? I'm going to have to hold the thing. I have the next several items for you guys in the Jolton area, starting with item 9. This is a request to rezone property from SP and R40 to mixed-use neighborhood alternative. Properties are outlined in red. This is located off of Old Clarksville Pike. Whites Creek Pike is just to the east. It is approximately 53 acres and makes up several properties. Staff is recommending approval. Again, the existing zoning is 1 and 2 family residential R40 and specific plan. The specific plan is approved for a wedding venue, 1 residential unit, and 4 small bungalow units. Proposed zoning, again, is a mixed-use neighborhood alternative. This is the lowest intense mixed-use zoning district that we have. It's intended to permit a variety of office, residential, and non-residential uses. Again, this is a Jolton community plan. The policy is rural neighborhood center, and it also has conservation. The neighborhood center policy is intended to maintain, enhance, and create rural neighborhood centers that fit within a rural character and provide consumer goods, services, and surrounding goals for communities. The CO policy is intended to preserve environmentally sensitive features that could be found on sites. Staff finds that the requested MUNA zoning is consistent with the policy, as it provides the lowest intensity of mixed-use development, would provide opportunities for creating rural neighborhood center. It's also specifically listed as an appropriate district in the land use policy. And with the conservation policy, that would be looked at with zoning standards and requirements when development comes in, which would look at those areas, stormwater buffers and those things. Inclusion staff is recommending approval of item number 9.
Microphone, okay. Is it good? Okay. All right. We'll open this item for public hearing, and the applicant is actually the council member. So, Councilman, you want to come up and we appreciate you coming in, and welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you guys coming out. This and the next couple of items are all linked together. As we talked about and spent last 13 months or so in extensive conversations with planning over these ideas. Originally, this came about because there had been several applications over years with some of these properties to do individual things. And so at one point, or it came to a point where there was a conversation about changing land use policy. So we went through the process with planning, had several community meetings, I believe 3 with planning, and then we learned about this as an option under current policy. And so then there was no need to move forward with trying to change land policy. And then in accordance with Nashville Next, creating that town center or town center designation, as you heard, this is what that meets that requirement under current policy, and that's what we're moving towards. The one thing that's common with all of these, and you'll hear in each of these other pieces the exact same thing, We're in a unique position with some of these properties. I approach it from a quality of life issue. Simply being able to create that town center allows us to address a multitude of options. I thank Bob from sitting in, on what I believe was a necessary meeting with the mayor's office, Public Works, Water, and other departments, continuing to dig into the issues that we're facing as a district, both on my rural outliers and in the urban core with Bordeaux. So I believe this is the right option to take. Again, it meets every requirement under current policy, and it allows us to start to address some of those other issues that we'll get into with these others. We can cover them now, or we can wait.
Yeah, let's try to, we'll do them separately. That way, we'll just keep the focus on that, Councilman. And we appreciate you coming, and you'll have rebuttal too, so we'll be all right. All right, anyone wishing to speak in support? Anybody wishing to speak in support? Come on up. And welcome. Appreciate you coming in. And as a reminder, you got 2 minutes, and then you can state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. That's why I wrote this instead of speaking to you, because I knew I would ramble on. And to my friends in the audience, excuse me for turning my back. It feels very awkward speaking like this. My name is Annette Winters. I reside at 4040 Woodlawn Drive, Nashville 37205, District 24. But I am also part owner, along with my brother and family, of the properties mentioned on the agenda. Our parents would be 102 and 105 if they were still alive, and they purchased this property in the early 1950s and had maintained it as very light farming, cattle, tobacco, hay, until my daddy's death in 1975. Since my mother passed in 2002, my brother and I have been good stewards of the property, which is no longer viable for agricultural use. The only crop grown on the property has been hay, which we literally can't give away. We have to pay someone to take it away for free. We're asking you to consider the zoning change so we can offer it to an end user who will develop it as intended, as additional residences to the community, which will result in much needed improvements to the infrastructure, namely by upgrading water and sewer lines. The community has not enjoyed any improvements since the current water and sewer lines were installed many, many years ago. This is the only acreage in what was to be considered as a town center from previous interactions with planning or Nashville Next ideas that do have both water and sewer capabilities, although the condition of these lines can't support anything at the moment. Most importantly, the wonderful community I knew, which had school support, children at the ballpark, and additional services like grocery stores, we actually had 2 when I grew up, restaurants, may return if there are homes or people to buy and live into the community. Stop.
Yeah. You can finish your thought.
Thank you if I could. I won't go through all of that, but one of the things I hope that, I'm guessing that we're not going to have a period of rebuttal after this, or maybe we are, but I just want to say that some of the things that may be coming up, speaking from some of my friends and
Thank you.
neighbors, just has a lot of inaccuracies in them. I'm suspecting that, so I'm just mentioning that to remind everybody. I wish that you would approve our proposal. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Nancy Winters, and I live at 2900 Morgan Road, Joelton, Tennessee. I am deeply rooted resident in Joelton. My family has lived there for several generations, but sadly, none of my children wish to live in the area due to the poor school performance and no local amenities. When I was a child and my children were younger, the community thrived and gathered at the schools and the local ballpark, which neither of these are community fed anymore. They all have to go out to surrounding counties to get the children to go to the ballpark. And The local schools that we have are on the bottom rung of the school system and are in a great danger of being closed. The only thing keeping the middle school open is the fact that 75% of the children are bused in from a low-income area 10 to 12 miles away. These parents do not have transportation, time, or finances to support this school. The school receives little tax money, since not a lot of money is generated in the area. This is why it is so important to have young, local families in the area. We need starter homes for these families and businesses to support them that would be within walking distance. Joelton has said no to too many things. Therefore, Metro doesn't think that we intend to or interested in sustaining. At this time, Joelton community is aging out. With few new families to support it, if the local churches would check their enrollment, they would find a large percentage coming from surrounding counties. What is it going to take for the community to see that we need to work together and grow, or we will be no more? When Nashville Next was implemented years ago, the area in question was designated as the town center. This rezoning will allow this to happen. This small town needs a place to gather, eat, play, and live.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Appreciate it. Welcome.
Hello. My name is Wayne Winters. I live at 2900 Morgan Road in Joelton. At this time, I'd like to ask you to support our rezoning of these town center properties to MUNA. These are now as the R40 zoning. I am a lifelong resident, about 75 years, and I have grown and inherited farm property there, which is costly to maintain and to keep the property taxes paid up on the acreage. The slow growth of our neighborhood has been both good and bad. It is no longer known as a farming community, but we have a lot of vacant land available if anybody's interested. We need to support our schools and our parks, and with walkability, it's a town center area where we could meet and greet. This change in the land will help our neighborhoods to grow, and it would be beneficial to Metropolitan Nashville. I'm proud to say I'm a retired Metro employee of 40 years. We have sewer lines available in Joelton. We have water lines available. We're right at I-24 exit going to Springfield, Clarksville, and Nashville. This will help and control the growth for Joelton and a town center that was designated by the Nashville Next Plan, which we have never seen any fundamentals in that direction. I ask you for your support, and remember, the Joelton is, a lot of people don't know if they're still in Davidson County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your service to the city. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? We got, ma'am, right? Bad timing. No, I'm just kidding. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? All right, seeing none. Anyone wishing, oh, sir, you want to speak in support? Come on up. I want to make sure we get everybody. Thank you for coming.
My name's Joe Smith. I'm a realtor up in Joelton. My office is at 7174 White Creek Pike. That just so happens to be the house I grew up in. I went 1 through 6 on one side of the street, 7 through 12 on the other side of the street, First Baptist Church there. I can tell most of y'all probably not very familiar with Joelton, but when it's going to grow is when the interstate comes through. That's what I always heard when I was a teenager. That was in the 70s. We're still waiting on that growth. You know, Joelton is an area that would have probably been better off over the years if it had been in Cheatham or Robertson County. I feel like that it would have been able to grow. The school system probably would have been better. And even though we've paid Metro taxes all these years, all of us that have been up there, both for and against, we don't feel like that we've ever benefited from those taxes very much. And Joelton needs some growth, And most of the growth in Davidson County now is good growth. I see it all over the town. There's not any shabby growth. It's too expensive, way too expensive. And I'm here to speak in favor of these different zone changes in this little hub of area that's right in the heart of Joelton. Joelton is a really large area, and the area we're talking about is like a little bullseye. That's the only place that the services are available in that whole area. So it makes sense that that would be the area to be developed as a community center. That's my input. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Don't want to leave anybody out. All right, seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. If you permit me, before I announce my name, I got some handouts here.
Yeah, let's give them to the team. We'll get them up to us. Oh. We'll get it sorted out. All right, hold on, Gary. Hold on. All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Gary Moore. I reside at 2946 Morgan Road. I'm only a transplant in Joelton. I've only been there about 40-something years. So most of the people there are generational, that's true. And we are not opposed to growth. There's a subdivision going in right now on Falls property where there's 71 homes being built. The property we're talking about here, they can build homes on those properties right now. They can start tomorrow. The Smith property is zoned commercial on the front end and residential on the back end, so they got that they could build on. The Winter Haganah property is zoned R40. They can start building houses tomorrow. It's already zoned for that. So it's not like they can't build. But they want to build, they don't want to build. They want to sell it to a developer who can build homes under MUNA. And I don't have to explain to any of y'all what MUNA means. It's a very wide swath of things that can be built there. We have no idea, once that property is zoned that way, what will be built there. Will it be homes? Will it be a sewage treatment plant? Will it be a water treatment plant? Will it be apartments? We don't know, and they don't know. Nobody knows. Only the developer that buys that property will know what they're going to put there. And so I would ask you to vote against it. And as far as the infrastructure goes, we do have poor infrastructure there. But we need to improve the infrastructure before we build more homes, not build more homes and then try to get the infrastructure to catch up. That's the problem we've had in Nashville for several years. As all of you probably very well know, we've outgrown our infrastructure in the city of Nashville right now where we're inadequate. We have inadequate water supply, we have inadequate sewer capacity, and we need to utilize and fix that before we even consider building any additional houses in the area that we're talking about there. And if you look at that, there's 228 signatures on that petition. And so I would ask you to honor the wishes of the people in the Joelton community. These are all from people within Joelton. You will see some, I'll finish this, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you will see some that says Goodlettsville, Addison City, and Nashville, but they're all our Joelton residents. That's just the way it goes in the Davidson County residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Jim Midget. I live at 6240 Eatons Creek Road in Joelton. Joelton is entirely within the Transect 2 rural policy area. It's a predominantly rural community. It offers quiet homes and ample access to open space. The residential is overwhelmingly single-family detached, and it has many sensitive natural features easily disturbed or destroyed by development. It is a unique asset for the entire county that residents have fought a long time to maintain as rural. This request seeks to change R40 basically to blanket MUNA mixed use. Together, these three proposals, and my comments apply to 9, 10A, 10B, 11A, and 11B. It's all the same. They would permit hundreds or thousands of multifamily units up to 3 stories tall with commercial mixed over more than 100 acres from the interstate, basically a mile or a mile and a half away, not counting the falls and conifer projects. The staff estimates that one of these would increase the maximum traffic by more than 56,000 daily trips during the week. Respectfully, none of that sounds remotely rural to me, and I've lived there my whole life. To those who simply desire to live in peace and quiet in a rural setting, who have a rural lifestyle at stake instead of more profit, these periodic efforts to increase density and subject them to development, construction, traffic congestion, crime, and more roadside trash seek to benefit a few at the expense of many. The concept to enhance the community would be easily approved if it wasn't presented as a flurry of rezoning requests without any plan for improvement. To the people who choose to live in Joelton, a road frontage facade that mimics rural and hides dense clumps of development behind it, and people being told that to get adequate services they've already paid for, they have to change the essential character of their rural community, or that they should have been born later, is not a good faith reading of our plan, I submit. If I could say one other thing, Mr. Chairman, even if MUNA is technically permitted in such quantity in a T2 rural community, certain permitted uses in that are incompatible with and inappropriate in Joelton.
Thank you. Let's try to, if everybody would try to stick to the 2 minutes, everybody. Give an inch, take a mile. I'm just kidding. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? I'll make sure. All right, it's so noted that you talked on all three of the zoning changes. Seeing no one else, rebuttal, Councilman?
Just briefly for clarity, we've addressed those conversations over this last year plus, extensively working with planning as we went through this process about what could or could not be permitted. And while we talk about the inadequacies in infrastructure and things of that nature, we have to be mindful of putting the cart before the horse. We always like to go worst case scenario on what could possibly be done at the far end. But with no infrastructure capacity, there's no danger of an immediate development of any kind, of any note. I'd like for somebody to clarify, just for the audience, in terms of when does infrastructure go in? Because Bob and I and Lisa were just in that meeting with the mayor's office and the different departments, and it's clearly stated that Metro, yes, we pay taxes to be part of the city, but they do not go in and do infrastructure upgrades or add infrastructure into any community ahead of any growth or development. And if I could get you guys just to clarify that process for the audience.
We'll discuss that, Councilman, when we get out of the public hearing. It's a very good point. Anything else, Councilman? Thank you. All right, seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Sims, you want to go first?
This is a question for you, Councilman, if you don't mind.
Yeah, come on up, Councilman. That way we get it on the record. Come on up.
This is a significant change for what the neighborhood's used to, and certainly for the NT2 zoning. So tell me how often you've met with the people there, and I mean, this is a huge stack of signatures against this for us.
And I duly note that you have those signatures. I would attest that the majority over the course of the last 13 months in the 8 meetings, as recently as last council meeting night, I was at a meeting with over 100 residents as opposed to at council. There were a lot of questions, but not anywhere near that type of pushback or concern. It was more clarity than anything else. Part of that also is because a lot of misinformation has been put out about what was coming, and there was conversations about specific developments when there's no development proposed. Being that it is something different that is already in place, it's not much different. That's why it's permitted under Nashville Next and under current land use policy, which was brought to our attention by going through the 3 meetings with planning over about whether we should adjust land use policy or not for those properties before, when there was something proposed. The other part to that is the fact that during the course of this year plus now, with those different meetings, one of the things that was always a reoccurring concept in this was, again, adjusting Nashville Next. This is a wholly commercial area along Whites Creek Pike and I-24. The bulk of what you'll see in each of these is surrounded by all commercial use. That traffic increase is going to increase to that number anyway, because you cannot get to Davidson County in Nashville if you're coming from Hopkinsville, Paducah, Bowling Green, anywhere in Kentucky, Southern Kentucky, Clarksville, Mount Pleasant, or Pleasant View, Springfield. Everyone, every morning, you can turn on your television, you'll see Whites Creek Pike, I-24, Clarksville Highway, because everyone, all of that traffic is coming from outside counties. Being almost a quarter of the entire county, District 1 only has 17,000 residents. So you thinking about 40 to 50,000 trips a day, 17,000 residents spread out over 200 square miles aren't the ones making those daily trips.
I have some concerns always when we change zoning, and the people who actually live there don't have any idea what might go there. And so something like an MUNA is such a wide gate. It's a little scary to me. And I think part of where I'm struggling is just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should. And I really want us to be sensitive. So I really want to hear what everybody else is saying.
Commissioner Gomel.
Well, I certainly understand the logic behind this zone change. Like Commissioner Sims, I am concerned about the number of people that's concerned about it. So I'm just going to sit and listen, and maybe somebody will have some insight.
Wisdom.
Commissioner Moore.
I don't know if I can add any insight, but I will say, I think looking at this and looking at the T2NC designation, it makes sense for the area with Whites Creek and I-24 being there and this being commercial. I do also have concerns with the number of signatures, but I do understand maybe some of those perspectives have changed with community meetings. But I will continue to listen as well.
Yes. Could you please put the slide? It says community character. And I think it shows, so T2 Neighborhood Center. All green is a T2 Neighborhood Center, or which portion is the neighborhood center designated area?
The darkest green.
All of the dark greens.
The conservation policy also covers some of that area, so underneath the green, you would find the dark green.
Okay.
Jason, just can you point out which one is the neighborhood center and which one is the conservation?
You guys see that arrow? This dark green?
No.
Can't see it?
Mm-mm.
Lisa, could you point on the map? Play Vanna.
This color is neighborhood center, and this color is conservation.
Yeah, could you point out within that red where the zone change is proposed?
This is neighborhood center, and this is conservation.
Okay.
And what's that TR square while you're up there?
There's a small corner of transition policy. Is that strike? The blue is civic, and the OS is open space.
Thank you. So clearly it says envisioning rural neighborhood center policy. My concern is, having that much signature, and I understand some people are embracing, some change and, some sort of development. My number one concern is because people, Nashville is a unique place. Every people who live in each individual neighborhood have such a pride of the neighborhood character. So they would like to know when they see development, they're not anti-development, but they would like to see, is that development enhance our community character? Is this a good match for this community character? Is this, by changing this like a blanket MUNA, seems like they don't have control over it. So to me, it seems like, putting the cart before horse. Seems like if you change the zoning, somebody will come and bring you the development. So instead, I think beauty of it is Councilman leading and with the community working together and bring appropriate development into that area. I think that would be the ideal situation. From that perspective, I think this zone change at this time, I feel a bit premature.
Council Lady?
Either staff or councilman, why these parcels?
Councilman?
Primarily the area that we're talking about near Whites Creek Pike, these are the borders where you have existing sewer capacity. This is not about adding any sewer lines or going outside. It doesn't change anything that's currently rural outside of the designated areas in this. So this would only allow for development eventually if there's increased capacity. So for example, when you talk about just north of this, the subdivision that's going in now, that Falls property that was mentioned, that started out as almost 200 units, then went to 180, then 140, it's all the way down to 70 because there is no capacity. We're at 1% water capacity now, and you couldn't build more than 25 homes of any kind right now in Jolton and put them on sewer.
Okay, I guess clarification, and you might not have the map in front of you, and I don't know if y'all can pull it up, but for example, the parcels that look to be along a road, what are they zoned right now? So they're light green, and they're along the road, from the transition policy up. So 396, 395, what are those zoned now?
The one in the transition policy is.
Yeah, and then up from there, the ones that are
But then R40, 1 and 2 family residential.
they are R40. So my question is why not those parcels? And why not the parcel that's kind of left out of the big lower block? Why not do all of these?
Three more cases too.
Okay, so those other ones are in the other breakouts?
Some of those are, and if you want to flip back to the policy map really quickly, I'm sorry, Jason. So those are in different policy area, and so those are in either conservation or one of the rural maintenance policies. So those are in a different policy area than the neighborhood center.
And so currently there is no proposed development for these parcels?
None.
And so so when a developer comes to you, either to put these together or develop them independently as parcels, they are going to be required to build the roads and everything on those parcels? Or is Metro going to, I guess, would they be subdivided and Metro would build? Or how are we getting a road through here?
So the properties that are outlined in red, the most southern ones, all front on Old Clarksville Pike. There is a road.
Okay.
The parcel that's up to the north, it fronts on a public road as well. And so there is public road frontage. Now,
but just on the edges.
Right.
The very edges.
They all have road frontage. All of the parcels have road frontage. If a parcel was to come in to develop, each would be reviewed on its own. Each would be reviewed to make sure that it's meeting the Metro standards. If it's a subdivision, then we would be looking at what would be required for a subdivision. So that would be, do they need new roads to go through the property, or is that existing road frontage enough? If it's someone that's coming in and they're just going to go for a building permit under MUNA, then they would be reviewed by all of the reviewing agencies at the building permit phase. And so water services would have to indicate whether or not there's enough capacity. Sewer would do the same. Stormwater would review construction plans to determine what stormwater needs may be needed. Depending on the size, Public Works may or may not require a traffic study. It would be dependent upon the intensity of whatever is proposed. And so all of those would be reviewed independently with each development.
And just under the bulk standards rather than, so like as I had a community meeting last night about a giant apartment complex. If a giant apartment complex wanted to come in on one of those lower parcels, that would go straight through Public Works and the other departments. It would not come through planning at all.
That's correct. If it was developing under, if rezoned to MUNA, and then developing under the MUNA standards and not requiring a subdivision, which would require Planning Commission review and approval, it would go through the building permit review process through the codes department, which is the standard process for any straight zone piece of property.
And let's see, do we have an estimate of how many, okay, so the maximum uses, the maximum multifamily residential is how many here if this were to develop all residential?
It depends. So you're going to have some estimates in your staff report in the traffic table. And what that is us making an estimation of what could develop. So essentially that's taking the entire acreage that's proposed for development. It's assigning a certain percentage to multifamily. It's assigning a certain percentage to retail. And the reason that we pick the uses that are assigned in those traffic tables is because we try to think of the most intense. And so it's saying you could have, if half of the acreage developed as multifamily, then you could have around 700 units based on that acreage. And so there's assumptions that are made in the traffic table to give a best guess of, if maximum build out, what the traffic would be. So really the maximum number could vary greatly depending on what type of unit someone is choosing to build. If it's townhomes versus stacked flats, there's going to be parking requirements. And so essentially we're giving you the very absolute max with this traffic table, but it's all really dependent upon.
It's all speculative.
It is.
And I understand speculative zoning to spur development. I am concerned that this is while they do have road frontage, I'm worried that this is speculative zoning because I know how much you have fought for the infrastructure in your district, and we're going to continue to have that conversation with the CIB process soon. And I know how many times you've tried with different tools to get the infrastructure that your district desperately needs. My concern and my fear is that when we're seeing more and more of our rural areas being developed and disappearing, and we cannot get them back. My concern is that when we base zone such large parcels like this, that our various owners that don't have a plan, don't have a development plan with them, I'm concerned of the slippery slope and I guess the monster behind the next corner, right? And so what I'm concerned about is that what happens next is almost the reverse of what you want, is that a developer is going to come out here, be lured out here saying, oh, it's MUNA, great, I'm going to be able to build my gigantic development, or the rooftops and the restaurants and something like a One Bellevue place, right? Something like that. But then they're going to be like, well, there's not the infrastructure to get there, and I'm going to have to pay for the road and the sewer and all that, and the property owners are not going to get what their land should be valued for at that time because of how expensive the infrastructure is going to be, right? Again, it's chicken and egg. We're constantly going to be doing that.
Specifically to that point, that was why including in the process each of the departments that would be weighing in on the back end, knowing what capacity could be, looking at worst case scenario, but the likelihood or the time period in which that could happen. You, for example, can take one of the smaller pieces. If one of the property owners were to sell that one smaller piece of that property that you're talking about, they sold it for $3 million, right? That one development would have to put in about $15 million in infrastructure, along with buying the property. Before they ever build anything, they're almost $20 million in. The likelihood of that happening in any near future is very extreme. That's with the smallest piece. And so we understand the worst case scenario and looking at the different models that could be into that. And because the city does not invest in ahead of development, maybe participate on a larger scale with development, and it's something we deal with on a regular basis. But this and the subsequent pieces that are mentioned in these zonings all face the same scenario, which is, and I use this analogy, and it's not to be flippant or anything, it's, I can say I want to go to the moon, but I still have to build a rocket ship first. We are years away from building that rocket ship. This is advancing the conversation about how to get in Nashville next. This that's already suggested by planning and currently under land use policy as part of the update for Nashville Next, and to continue the conversation about the need for that infrastructure improvement there. Because one of the things that you're going to consider with any development is when we talk about capacity, there is none. That's why I mentioned the property just to the north and the 6-year process that is going through and continuously being reduced. There is no immediate danger of something massive happening. No, and I'm sure we've got several developers and realtors in the room that are probably back there nodding their head. Nobody's going in $30, $40 million on something before they ever have a plan to build something.
Thank you, Councilman.
So, Councilman, I think your argument is very compelling, but I think it's compelling on both sides of the sword here. I think that I would feel much more comfortable if there was a plan that was coming along with this. If there was a development coming along with the zone change, that would give your community probably some more support or comfort if they knew what was coming with it. I think it would give me some more support. I'm not comfortable with large parcels of land like this being rezoned. If this was going along with some type of I know urban design overlay isn't the right word here, the right overlay here, because we're talking about a rural area. And when I'm reading the policy, it is a neighborhood center intended to maintain, enhance, and create rural centers that provide services and a mixture of uses for surrounding rural areas. I'm concerned that that we might be flipping a switch we can't undo. And I would feel much more comfortable in supporting you on this if it was one parcel at a time or 3 of these parcels with one development plan coming forward, rather than hoping to change if it's allowed under the plan, then it can be done when the developer comes as well. And so I think where your argument is very compelling to let's rezone it to try to attract something, I think it gives more comfort to your constituents. And again, speaking out of turn because they are your constituents and not mine, they would give the community and myself, I would feel more comfortable supporting this if it was on a smaller scale and project by project or owner by owner.
Commissioner Tibbs.
I think Councilman Murphy actually probably did a really good job of digging into it a lot more specifically, which I definitely think we should specifically consider. Generally, I would say, though, I feel like it's consistent with the policy. I feel, with this type of area, I think that type of development could be very valued. I was kind of like Commissioner Sims. All the signatures were a little alarming. However, you mentioned you had a community meeting one Tuesday when you should have been at council, I think you said, that was 100 people there. So I don't know if this was, I can't say if this was prior to that or after that, but I'm take you at your word that you've addressed their concerns. So, generally speaking, I support it because I think it's toward that. It's consistent with policy, and I do think that pockets like this are good for rural areas because it could be an area where more services are able to be happening, and actually would be better support for the rest of it. So, could even help keep some of the area I don't want to say keep this area rural because that'd be a contradiction, but it would be able to support the other areas.
Really quick, just into that point, remember, this is a total of 50 acres. That's it.
Yeah.
Town center, but it is a total of 50 acres of property that we're talking about out of thousands.
Thank you,
Right
Councilman,
on
for
White
the,
Street Pike
thanks for the
Drive.
clarification. Appreciate it.
Well, generally, I support it.
Vice Chair?
It's, so 50 acres for the 3 cases that we're looking at? Or just this one specific one? Just
Here,
this
why
one.
don't you put that on the, how much is it, Lisa, for
This
one?
this proposal is 53.22 acres.
And then we've got the others that are
Correct.
in the JNR. So we have so little opportunity for greenfield development in Nashville anymore. But we also know what greenfield development has looked like in the past, where it's been just sort of scattershot and without a plan. This is a huge area that we're actually looking at, and I agree that it's an area ripe for commercial development right off the highway, but it's also an area ripe to provide the kind of development that the neighbors, this community that's been there for many, many years wants and needs. So it seems like it's a really neat opportunity for some kind of a master plan development that would look at all of these cases together and think about how to make it the correct mix of housing and retail and office and industrial and whatever it takes. I recognize that's a different proposal, and it probably requires either a developer or the city to take the lead on putting something like that together. But I think, like my fellow commissioners, I would feel a lot better if I saw the vision for this area and not just a blanket rezoning. But I think it's a really exciting opportunity. I don't know if that's for the city to take on or for the planning staff to take on, or if it's private development.
Just jump right in there. Well, I agree with you. I think that centers in rural areas can actually be some of the most interesting. I mean, if you look at the corner at Whites Creek, the historic sort of crossroads there, it's just so interesting. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to develop compelling, well-designed commercial. There is so much in the discussion that we've just had that I think it's really interesting. One was regional change versus incremental change and when that's appropriate or not. Historically, we're required, and this is how staff looks at it, is it consistent with policy? That's really the standard that we use, but the council member brought up this question of readiness and whether or not something is premature and by what standards would we consider that. Historically, we want more master plan developments so that you can assure that infrastructure is cohesive, and our mechanism for master planning is a specific plan, or it can be a detailed design plan or some overlay. But as we've discussed, we do need to bring some predictability to our base zoning districts. And so that's a tension. And then the last piece is this infrastructure investment, and the councilman asked that we address this. Where we put infrastructure in our city is a hugely important question, and we have been relying for a long time on the private sector. He's right. And so I think there's a lot to unpack here. I think that having the planning department go out and do some detailed planning work is a possibility. The challenge is we have so many projects on that list. We're almost 3.5 years out now, and that's something I'm going to be talking about at our budget hearing. So all of those are factors to weigh. I do think, as a commission chairman, my recommendation would be setting this case aside to talk about the policy versus readiness, because that seems to be at the heart of what we're grappling with here, because the commission really, the expectation is you're going to use policy as a guide.
So, Commissioner, if you would allow me to have a frank conversation with the councilman, but I don't want to say I feel a cold wind from the commission, but I feel like maybe there's some more discussion and on all of these cases. I know that you have put a ton of work in this. You've had several community meetings over the last year. But are you wanting to move forward with all of these cases because potentially you may not have the votes for these items tonight?
Well,
So,
and even to that point in what Ms. Kemp was just mentioning, and Bob will probably put his head down, but he was one of the people that we've enlisted. Every 30 days, I'm meeting with Stormwater, Public Works, Fire Marshal, each of the departments involved, and the mayor's office who supports this, to develop that plan. Because we were just talking about how policy is shaped, and then the fact that typically policy follows trends and growth that's already happening. But this is an instance where you're talking about the area that has 60% of the total canopy left for Davidson County because of my geographical size. And being able to do infill development and develop in areas where you can utilize and work around that green space, especially since so much of the topography won't allow it anyway, even if you were to rezone certain places. We're going through that. You know, he'll tell you that I sent out the email. We're meeting every 30 days or so. We're getting input, and we're trying to put that plan together. And that was the alternative way to asking for, I think it was a $250,000 to do a master plan through planning. And it, like she said, you're 3 years out now. Again, to the point of there's no immediate threat because there will be no capacity for quite some time. And as that plan is put together, the goal is to have the whole thing put into Nashville next. And so we're not here next year having the same conversation about another parcel in the same area over the same topic when you can, and you guys have heard this to the point of nausea. We're looking at it like a city planner or civil engineer, right? It's where's all the infrastructure, where does it need to be upgraded, improved, connected? Here's where residential should go, here's where commercial should go, how do you account for topography, maintaining green space, all of those things at once so that we're not in front of planning 1,000 times over the next 18 months, 36 months, trying to individually do those.
well, and I understand that. So the question is we have this item in front of us tonight, and we're taking action now. So we literally have a couple choices: is we can either defer this or or try to take a stab at approval or disapproval. I'm just, we try to be.
The point of deferral, I was under the impression, because remember, it's tracking at council also.
So you want to move forward?
I could, if I defer public hearing at council,
So,
where does that put us
please.
calendar-wise?
So the public hearing right now is scheduled for March 5th. And so I think it would be dependent on what you want to achieve with the deferral of how long it would need to be deferred. The public hearing is deferred to March, but it could be deferred to any number of times by the council member. So.
Well, and I interrupted the vice chair, which I did not mean to do that, but I was asking a question too.
I had a question. I don't know
Okay,
if
well, vice chair, we're still on the vice chair's still on her.
I guess so what was just said, and I know that we talked about the economics of developing just one parcel, but, I think just listening to this personally, I'm even more convinced that I don't want to change the base zoning for everything, because, even if we intend to put together this plan, there's no keeping one property owner from selling one parcel and self-storage going in, and then how do you plan around that? So I think it's even more important that we think about at least a process for doing the plan before we think about the overall base zoning.
I have a question, too.
Hold on, we got a list of people on the question. So, Councilor, you're next, and then Commissioner Sims, you'll be next.
Okay.
Oh, hold on wait a second. I might have a development.
I had to get with the genius.
Oh, no.
Clarifying the process. I'm not opposed to deferral because simultaneous to this, because there was no specific development plan for any of these parcels, it doesn't mean that those weren't being worked on or done. And so we were under the impression that we had to take a certain route or path. She clarified that we can defer and come back and we can show those specific plans for any one of those parcels as an example to do that. And then it'll also allow us for that next meeting with the mayor's office in each department to take place.
And I've also advised that, just given what I'm hearing, that if a more gradual approach to this is something that would give the commission reassurance and the council member, it would be supportive. It might be helpful to start with those areas. I'm not going to opine on the spot here, but where you might be the most ready based on the streets and the other things, and I think the commission could have some more comfort there, and we could just walk it through. And so, if the councilman agrees to a deferral, then I think we could address that in the presentation, if that.
And so, if the councilman's okay with the deferral, how long of a deferral do we think is appropriate for the councilman to achieve his goals?
The second meeting in March. Okay.
So,
I still have a question.
okay, we're just clarifying. We're just talking. So, Council Lady, you're recognized.
And then I'm happy to make a motion, but I think Commissioner Sims had a
Let's
question
get our
too.
questions out.
So Jolton has been talked a lot about over our first term and now into this term. And I was fortunate to have a charrette and a community plan update on my 2 miles of the Charlotte corridor, which was fabulous and wonderful. And I know that takes a lot of staff time, and I know that's why you have a long list, is because it is fabulous and wonderful. Has any of that been discussed, or UDO started to be discussed for Jolton or this area? I may be confusing it with getting Whites Creek and Jolton confused on which one started a UDO or discussion or not. But have y'all done any preliminary work in this area on a UDO type, or I guess an RDO, rural development?
We've had
overlay?
discussions, and the council member can correct me, but the staff was out there a year and a half ago, and
Literally have.
and I don't think there was a consensus on moving forward with it, is my recollection, that
Kind of like
we
this.
had several meetings, but there wasn't consensus on moving forward with a UDO.
Okay.
Or what type it would actually be, because of the Clarksville Pike portion going toward Whites Creek and Clarksville, we literally have urban design overlays from urban services along Clarksville Highway and Bordeaux all the way up into Whites Creek along Clarksville Highway. And so there wasn't a specific RDO or type of overlay that was available to us. So that was what stalled that process, trying to figure out what could be created or if there was an example.
Yes, it sounds like we need to get some creative legislation for an RDO. We can work on that in the planning committee. Councilman, correct me that whether I'm hearing you correctly or not. You are open to some sort of master planning process or design process or small corridor, I don't know if the right word is small corridor, small area study for this area.
Yes. Yes, we've actually entered in that process and had that first meeting, like I said, stormwater, water, public works, planning, the fire marshal, and the mayor's office, all
Okay.
a part of that conversation.
Well, if you've got questions, otherwise I'm ready to make a motion.
I just want to say one thing.
Commissioner
I went and walked y'all's whole area, everything you've got up here, and you're sitting on a gold mine, and all we want to do is help you mine it, and mine it in the correct way. So thank you for all the work you've done. And I think in trying to do some type of overlay like this or some kind of design-based zoning will give the people what they want and what you know you need. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Is there a motion?
Can I defer all the related cases, or do I need to do one at a time?
We're on this particular item, and then after we finish this, we could do the others if the councilman is willing.
So I believe the motion was defer this to the second meeting in March.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second?
Jacob.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And so, Councilman, we are on items 10A and B and 11A and B also. We can do those together with the same. So we'll need a motion to put these on the deferral list. So there's a motion to defer 10A, 10B, 11A, and 11B to the second meeting in March. That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Ayes have it, and those meetings are, those items are deferred to the second meeting in March. And Councilman, thank you for coming up. And I think that, when we have these discussions and everyone brainstorming, that it's a good thing. So we appreciate you coming up. And
I definitely appreciate it because now it may give Bob, Lisa, and Lucy a little break when constantly seeing me coming down the hallway. So
that's okay.
Now we know we've got a schedule that we're operating on.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it. So we've been in the meeting about 2 hours, and I think that we should probably, if it's okay with the commissioners, it's probably time for a small break and potty break and all that. Okay.
Thank you.
With that objection, we'll take a break. And so we are on item 15.
Okay. This is a request to rezone. The request is going from OG and RS10 to SP. It's to permit 43 multifamily residential units. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. The site's in Madison. It's on the corner of Hospital Drive and Neely's Bend. Zoning currently is OG and RS10, and the surrounding land uses are medical, single-family residential, and vacant. This plan proposes a multifamily residential development of 43 units. The development has 2 points of access. Both are off Hospital Drive, one to the front and one to the back of the site. The maximum building height is 3 stories. There's a landscape plan that's been included, and it addresses the transition between the development, the streets, and also the single-family residential development to the south. There are architectural standards provided within the plan, and those will be addressed at the final site plan stage. There's actually 3 policies on this plan. The T3 residential corridor on the front, in the middle, where the OG zoning is, that is T3NE, and then to the back of the site is conservation, which addresses the open space. This plan proposes a natural area with a walking trail. So the policy on the front along Neely's Bend, that's the residential corridor. That policy addresses moderate development that has a relationship with the street, and this plan proposes a development that has buildings facing Neely's Bend with connections that go to the sidewalk along Neely's Bend. The area behind that, that is the RS10 area, that's under the T3 neighborhood evolving policy. That policy aims to create moderate development with a mixture of housing types. And this plan proposes moderate density. It proposes building types that also face Hospital Drive. It's also worthy to note that the existing zoning OG is not compatible with that T3NE policy. So this plan actually brings this policy area into compliance because the OG policy has land uses that aren't consistent with the policy as well as the existing characteristics of the neighborhood. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we'll open this item up for public hearing. And is the applicant in the room? Welcome. And you have 10 minutes. You can save 2 minutes of the 10 for a rebuttal.
Okay, thank you.
And please state your name and address.
My name is Britt DePriest, 1211 7th Avenue North. I am speaking for the applicant today. Just want to give you a little insight into how the sort of the thought process when we designed this SP. One of the major factors that we took into account was the diverse nature of the development around this property. On Hospital Drive, where we are, there is a large hospital campus, a large, beautiful church campus, a professional school, and a nursing home. The street right behind us, sanitarium. There's a school. There are 19 single-family homes. I think there are 3 duplexes and a 20-unit apartment building. If you head a little bit further down Neely's Bend, the next street past sanitarium, Sioux Terrace, Takes you to a neighborhood that is predominantly single-family, but by my count, there are over 60 attached duplexes and 4 attached quadplexes. This trend of a diverse development pattern continues quite a distance either way you go down Neely's Bend from our property. We feel like this SP continues that trend, which is exactly what's called for in 2 of the 3 policies that are on this property. And we feel like we're honoring the conservation overlay as well by proposing a walking trail there. I'm going to let Michael Garrigan from Dale & Associates speak to the specifics of that. But I would also like to say, in terms of involvement with the neighborhood thus far, I've attended 2 neighborhood meetings, one on January the 11th and one the night before last. Both of them were very well attended. We had a lot of conversation with the neighborhood. I feel like it's an excellent way to communicate with the neighbors of the property that you hope to be working around. Neither myself or any member of the development team feels like if we're to move forward here tonight, that this is the end of the communication process. We intend on communicating with the neighborhood all the way through the rezoning, all the way through the time of the rezoning, all the way through construction. I hope Ken doesn't mind me saying, but I was just invited to a church board meeting on February 27th to talk about the plan further. At this point, I'm going to let Michael Garrigan with Dale & Associates take over to talk about some of the more technical aspects of the development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Michael Garrigan, 516 Heather Place. I'm the civil engineer on the project. Just a few things I want to point out. Britt did a good job kind of covering it, most of it, but the technical aspects, the majority of the property is currently zoned OG. If you take the floor area ratio that is permitted, it actually is allowed 270,000 square feet of office uses. That would require 900 parking spaces. That's not even close to the ballpark of what we want to do. If you take our floor area that we're proposing, it's about 1/3 of what can be done just on the OG piece, not counting the residential piece. The traffic counts that Public Works did that are in your staff report kind of speak to that as well. The traffic this will generate is about 10% of what the office development could generate. We think it's really strange that it's zoned OG, but that is what it's zoned. That doesn't comply with the policy. What we're proposing does comply with the policy. We've worked through the process with Public Works for access for some off-site improvements at Larkin Springs. We've worked with Stormwater for our bioretention locations and our water quality and quantity that will be required to meet through the grading permit process. And we've, as Britt said, worked with the neighborhood to soften this as much as we possibly can. The bottom side of that page, which is actually the southeast property line, will have about, at its closest point, a 50-foot buffer. In most places, it's close to 100 feet. And that'll be natural tree canopy kept in place. There's a large, the conservation area the conservation policy area is about 3.3 acres, and we're in agreement to put that in a preservation easement. So that would never be touched. So at the end of the day, about half of the property's tree canopy will remain. So we ask for your support, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we'll reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal. Appreciate it. Anyone wishing to speak in support of the project? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, opposition. Come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ken Wetmore. I'm the senior pastor of the Madison Campus Seventh-day Adventist Church, which adjoins the property that's being discussed this evening. I represent 1,600 members of that church. I as well am. We run the elementary school that was also mentioned, Madison Campus Elementary. We are invested in Madison Academy, which is also part of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination, as well as I teach and am the chaplain at Middle Tennessee School of Anesthesia. I heard a little earlier somebody said if they were representing a larger institution, they might be allowed a little extra time to speak, and I'm wondering if that might be possible.
Well, generally, it's a pre-written requirement, and it's usually not for a particular entity. It's usually for an association or neighborhood group. Is that what you are, or is
representing the Madison Campus Seventh-day Adventist Church, which
yeah,
is
yeah, generally that's an individual entity. So give them another minute because I've interrupted you, and keep going as fast as you
Certainly. As I mentioned, my name is Ken Wetmore. I live at 600 Betty Lou Drive in Madison, and our church is located at 607B Larkin Springs Road in Madison. Our church property is located directly across Hospital Drive from the property under your consideration for rezoning. I believe that the developer has good intentions in requesting the rezoning and means no harm to our community. I fully support the landowner's right to make use of their property in the manner of which it is zoned. Now, I also support rezoning when that helps improve the community. However, I don't believe we know whether rezoning this property will accomplish that goal as of tonight. It may or it may not. What we do know is that putting 43 units will create greater traffic on Hospital Drive, a drive that's used by Academy High School students, elementary school students. It's going to increase the population in an already understaffed first responders area, and it's going to increase the usage of my church's walkway around a retention pond in a green area. We don't know what those impacts are going to do for us, and because the first time we were made aware of this was last week when the public notice went out, we haven't had a chance to have a church board meeting to discuss it. I appreciate that Mr. DePriest has met twice, and I was at the meeting that was on Tuesday. It was the first one I was aware of. But we haven't had a chance as a community to really have a discussion about this. And I know that Mr. DePriest says this is just the first step in the process and that your vote is only a recommendation, but I feel that undercuts the true impact of your vote. I've worked with enough committees to know that when you have a subcommittee make a recommendation, it matters. And so I'm sure that your recommendation will be leaned on later to the commission. And so I think it really matters what you do tonight. I'm not asking you that you defeat this, but I would ask that you defer this until we can have a little bit more time to talk with Mr. DePriest. As he mentioned, I've invited him to my church's board meeting that's coming up here in a week. Love to be able to come back before you and support this after we've had a chance to really see what the impact would be to our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming down. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time, generous time, and to serve Davidson County and its constituents. My name is Manae Bell. I'm a current resident in District 19. However, my family roots are in District 9. We have investments in Madison, specifically Jasperson Drive and Hospital Drive, which is located directly off Neely's Bend and will be impacted by this proposed development on Hospital Drive. I also serve as chair on the Metro Historical Zoning Commission, and speaking generally on both of our commissions, we are constantly presented with developments, whether single-family or multi-units. More regularly, the community concerns are how a single structure or buildings relate or not to the built environment, the historical landscape of the area, environmental impact to the natural landscape, such as water retention and flooding, and traffic. These are all serious issues for our city, and we are urged to consider these important elements in this next decade of our progressive future. Personally, I know this community very well, over 50 years. Madison is not an urban neighborhood. It is in the GSD, and majority of the homes, predominantly mid-century on good-sized lots. Now, 2020, mid-century structures are becoming more historical as years go by, and we are urged to take pause in consideration of the historical fabric of this community. So back to the proposed development and other future developments, and again, generally speaking, can other metro departments take another look at the impact on possible flooding, water retention, and stormwater of this project? And Pastor Whitmore has also mentioned there's a retention pond in lower land area directly across the street that floods during continuous rains. Can another metro department take another look at the traffic study, not only for this development, but as other multi-developments are considered in the future? Just two more sentences. For example, the recently approved Fox Valley subdivision infill of 120 homes. So the only two-lane Neely's Bend with not enough turn lanes to already developed area is already car jammed during peak hours. Does this project reflect the historical built environment and context? Thank you for your wise consideration on these matters.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Matt Campbell. I live at 600 Hidden Acres Drive in Madison, Tennessee. I'd like to just expand on other neighbors that are commenting about the traffic. TDOT, Tennessee Department of Transportation, has traffic counters at Larkin Springs Road and Neely's Bend Road. On average, 11,300 cars have trips per day. Also, at the top of Neely's Bend Road, where most traffic travels north, those counters are 13,000 trips per day. As another neighbor mentioned, there are currently 218 homes scheduled in a 3-mile area of being built in this same development as being proposed. That will add an additional 2,000 trips per day. So on the basis of traffic, I respectfully ask for you to deny the SP zoning change. I appreciate you letting me comment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come on up. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Celeste Holloman. I own a 1945 stone cottage on Sanitarium Road. This is the second property on Sanitarium Road. So right in my backyard is where this development is being proposed. So right now, there is a beautiful area with lots of really old trees. I understand that development will happen. People like me bought their homes in this neighborhood because we like the character of the current community. The homes, most of them, have around 1/2 acre yards. This SP zoning does not fit into the character of the neighborhood, I feel. There's a rich history of education and agricultural studies on this land. Going back to the 1900s, there was a college and a school. Please give my community a chance to work together with a developer or HCA to find an alternative that fits into our community. Green space, an educational nature area, or housing as it is currently zoned. I vote no to dense housing SP zoning change. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Come on up. I want to make sure we get everybody. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Mickey Skelton. I live at 609 Hidden Acres Drive, have for the past 44 years. Prior to that, we lived a little further up in Neely's Bend. And from where we live, when we first moved down there, it took us 1 red light and 5 minutes to get from our house to Gallatin Road. Now there's about 4 red lights, and it takes 10 minutes, so it's twice as long. And anything that we do to add to that is just going to make it worse, especially for the people that go to work early in the morning and come back home late in the afternoon. I mean, it's lined up. It'll take you 2 or 3 times to get through the Neely's Bend and Gallatin Road red light in the morning getting out, if you can't find another way. So I would ask you to not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Welcome.
Members of Metropolitan Commission. This developer wants to shoehorn 43 tall, skinny houses onto 5 acres that would only be 5 feet apart. This would allow the destruction of 5 acres of a cedar glade on an undulating hillside that currently serves as stormwater loss for our and protection for our area. The area has a rich history that should be respected. Historic markers note the founding of Madison College in 1904 across from the proposed development, the Trail of Tears nearby on Neely's Bend Road. The area has old trees that shelter much wildlife. Some of the cedars have been on this land since the early 1900s and before. Many homes are historic, built in the 1930s and 40s. My Sears cottage was built in 1930. Other houses are built with rocks from farm fields and old fences from the Ferguson farm. Stormwater runoff is a major problem. Sanitarium Road is at the top of a hill. Significant stormwater pours off of Sanitarium and flows downhill into these woods. What the woods can't hold flows onto the land the developer proposes to clear. It pours over Hospital Drive into the land on the other side. homes across on Larkin Springs have to deal with this stormwater and frequent flash floods. If the existing tree canopy is removed from any part of the 5 acres of this land, a lot of tree canopy will be replaced with concrete and asphalt shingles along the lower hillside. We know what will happen with this stormwater runoff that large trees and surrounding soil are currently absorbing. Furthermore, these trees, all of them, provide clean air for the surrounding neighbors. A further thing that has not been mentioned yet is the impact on education. The classrooms in our small Neely's Bend schools are already overcrowded.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? All right. Oh, come on up, ma'am. Yes. Welcome.
Thank you for your time. I just feel like I'm Myrna Klosser, 1729 Hudson Road, and I've lived and worked in the Madison area, lived or worked in Madison area for since 1981. And so it's very dear to my heart. And I just want to remind you that Neely's Bend is a dead-end road. There's no way out except that one direction. And Hospital Drive, part of Hospital Drive, is privately owned, and so that would further make a problem for those getting out, going towards Larkin Springs. From Hospital Drive to Larkin Springs, they would have to go through a privately owned road. There's just a lot of things to consider besides, I would love to see it go into a land trust that could be developed by our Parks and Recreation and educationally for our children. There's so many different things that haven't been addressed, such as a turn lane zone, so that a turn lane on Hospital Drive to the residential area. And I think everything else, most of the other people have already addressed. So I just appreciate your attention and your thoughtfulness in what to do on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Make sure we get everybody. All right, seeing none, rebuttal, and then the council lady.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Michael Garrigan, Dale & Associates, 516 Heather Place. We heard a lot about traffic, and, all I can say is 43 cars will add trips to the road, but 43 homes will add trips to the road, but significantly less than what the property is currently zoned for. Just want to continue to point that out. It is undeveloped property, but it is currently zoned a pretty highly intense zoning classification of OG. As far as the trees go, as I stated before, we are preserving about 50% of the canopy. Most of that is on the slope going up in the back. That helps keep that slope stable, helps absorb that storm water. And a portion of that is not only going to be left as open space in the SP, but also put into a preservation easement. The density we're proposing is 5 units per acre. That's a moderate to low density. It's not a high density amount. That's 43 units on 8.6 acres. There was kind of some different numbers thrown around previously, but that is what is proposed. And the other thing that came up that I heard was the private road that goes in front of the hospital. We've looked that up. It has a public access easement platted across it, so it is owned and maintained by HCA, but it is for public use for access. So I believe I covered everything. Here to answer any questions if any come up. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, sir. Council lady? Councilor Hancock, welcome.
First one.
We won't be hard on you, I promise.
So throughout my campaign, what I heard from the lower end of the Bend constituents was, you've got to save the Bend. If you're elected, save the Bend. And this is what they mean. The biggest thing that we were dealing with last summer was the sausage plant development at 1201 Neely's Bend Drive, which originally I think was planned for 400, then came down to 3, then 2, and now it's at 121, which is under the, I guess, 144 it was zoned for, but it's still a big kind of sore spot in the community, and it hasn't started the development yet. At the same time, no one knew about a development on Providence Pass that the zoning went through, you guys, no problem. And public notices were made, but everyone was so focused on that there's another 54 housings coming in that we weren't aware of until this fall when I had to sign off on the new sewer lines that go through that. And so those are the developments that people are talking about, that they're worried and they don't know the impact of that on the community yet. I think that this group with Britt of Dale Associates has been great to work with. He came in to me in December and said, hey, we want to build 54 houses on this lot. What do you think? And I said, that's way too many. No one's going to like it. Please lower it to 30. And he came back and he said, hey, we've got a plan for 43. What do you think? And I said, that's way too many. Please lower it to 30. Then people consider it. And he said, well, we really need to keep it here for the cost effectiveness, and I'd like to bring this to a community meeting. And I said, okay, let's do it. So he came to the community meeting in January that we had at the Madison Community Center. So it wasn't the closest community meeting to this development, but it was a Saturday meeting, so there were a lot of people there. And everyone, thought that's lots and lots of houses. They saw the pictures and said, well, they look kind of nice. And then they made some suggestions, and Britt listened. He, put permeable parking. He added more parking spots, and he added a T turnaround, and that was great. And then it's coming to planning, so then the mailers went out, and then everybody that lives really close to the area found out about it, that weren't necessarily coming to my meetings yet, but I've got all their emails now, so that's a win. And they came to the meeting on Tuesday night, and overwhelmingly the group was not in favor of this proposal. There was one person there that was, and in general, people are kind of accepting of the, I guess, offer of saving the 3 acres. However, as mentioned by the developer, that is a sloped 3 acres that wouldn't necessarily allow for that OG development anyway. I've also heard a lot of the residents say if it was RS10 zoning and then put on the 5, we could do that, and I know that that's 31 houses, so win suggestion for me from December. But another couple of suggestions that were made today are willingness to work with the developer and try to make it a better offer for the community, and I think that that's fantastic, talking about putting a land easement on the land, or also specifically adding some stone attributes to the development that would match the stone on the sanitarium drive. So those are all great ideas. And I did have one constituent, Ruby Rutledge, that went to the wrong location from Nick's Pass, so she wanted me to make sure that you knew that she was also speaking out against it. But overall, I think that this developer is really good at working with the community, and it could be a good development, but I think the numbers need to go lower for it to be accepted and for it to fit in with the development of the Bend, because this isn't a urban, it really isn't suburban, it's more rural. We are in the general services district, so it would be kind of all of a sudden something super bright and modern where everyone's kind of more casual and laid back.
Thank you, Councilor.
Do you have any questions for me?
We probably will, for sure.
I'll stay around.
Yeah, don't leave.
I'm on the agenda anyway.
Yeah, don't leave. Thank you for coming down and did great for your first time. So with no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed, and Commissioner Tibbs, you'll go first.
Well, I do agree this seems to clean up a little policy just with the kind of, interesting zoning that was already there. So, I mean, I should say, I think it's consistent with policy. But I feel the same way. Actually, it's easier to look backwards. But I do feel it's like it's a little dense for the area. I think, though, it is a good place for it, and I think I do commend the developer for the way they have street fronted it and put the street and the road in the back and the access. Sometimes we have such a hard time getting them to put the access in, so I'm glad you consider that. But I guess, and I'm kind of following more with the councilwoman, that I do think that maybe a little bit more work with the community would probably make this even better, just especially kind of considering some of the concerns that they have. And maybe could lessen up the density some. I do know that gets into other issues as far as the, development and economics of it. But I want to say generally, I think it's a good approach. I think it's moving in, it's consistent with that area needs. We need more homes, and especially in this area. But maybe we just look at the density and maybe look at also any other, maybe another community meeting, since you're good to work with the community, come together with some things that they would be more, they'll work better within what they're actually looking for. But I do feel like this is a good first step.
Councilor?
Thank you. Conservation or preservation easement was mentioned by Britt, I think, right? Can you tell me some more about that? Or one of y'all? What are you imagining there? Beyond, obviously, it being placed in the SP.
So on the site plan, the area, I mean, you can see it plainly on the screen. During the opening conversations with Councilor Hancock, she expressed her the importance that open space played with her and her constituents. And we agreed to make that open space publicly accessible. So we're not going to put up any signs, residents only, or no trespassing, or anything along those lines. I think there was some concern at the neighborhood meeting the night before last that, okay, well, that's fine, that's what you intend to do. How do we know that that's the case going forward? So I think that probably the conservation easement on the back part of the property, it was a suggestion from someone that was at the meeting, probably just in an attempt to make sure that that land was locked down as open space from now on, and we're willing to do that.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you're willing to, that you will agree to language in the SP, that there will be no building and conservation of the trees in the back part. And will you also be, so on here there's, I have to look very closely, it's very tiny. There's a mulch walkway.
Correct.
Would the HOA be maintaining that in perpetuity?
That's correct.
And would there be, I guess, flexibility, whether it be through the SP or for the HOA, to either continue that walkway around further back? I don't know how sloped it gets back in the back of the property.
I don't think it's too sloped for a mulch walkway. So, yeah, we're open to suggestions as far as that goes.
But so basically you are committing to a preservation / conservation easement and preservation of what would probably be good is doing, and I've done this with another property where we marked trees and attached it to the SP that were not to be touched. That would be left up. Obviously, trees don't last forever,
sure.
but you would not cut down. You and Council Lady Hancock could work through what trees are not touched.
It's the developer's intent to not touch any of the trees on that part of the property.
Well, we could get that in writing and attach the SP, right?
A truck may hit a tree or something like that, but they're not going to go back there and remove trees intentionally. But yeah,
Great.
we're fine with that.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is when you look at, you're going down Neely's Bend, the way I would describe until you get down to the very end of the bend and you get into Peeler Park and things, is that there are a lot of mixed pattern developments throughout there. There are, as you see, some more that are like a little bit more grid-like streets that are easily walkable and single family and remind me of kind of Sylvan Park in my district. And then there are a lot of kind of, for lack of a better word, curly cues of little subdivisions that are houses much closer together, which you can see on this first, the kind of broader view. And so I describe Neely's Bend as having kind of that, they'll have a dense pocket, and then they'll kind of have the single family home spread out, and then a dense pocket. And that is kind of, for me, in my previous life over the last 6 years, spending a lot of time out in that area, that's how I would describe it as I've walked it, as I've driven it, and so on and so forth. And so honestly, I think the way that these homes are fronting the road and that there are just two drives with the road behind it is very appropriately placed, and I would rather see this than kind of the curly Q kind of cul-de-sac neighborhood that seems to have a lot more driveway than home and yard space. To me, from the overview, it looks like this has more yard than drive space. I think there probably is some room to negotiate maybe 3 of these units away for some more parking space if the council lady so chose and was able to knock that out at council, which is her prerogative. It's amendable up until 3rd reading. But I think this is a development that meets policy and meets the development plan as you go down the bin until it really does get to the homes and the lots that are much larger and the farms that are at the end of the bin.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Yes, I do appreciate all the negotiation and pleased to hear open space and public access and so forth. And having in the same shoes as Council Lady Hancock, more community meeting, work with a very workable developer, and you can make very acceptable development. And sometimes as a community, 1 unit too many is just 1 unit too many. And so I don't know what the magic number is. It could be, 3 front instead of 4 front. So to do that, I have a question with the council lady. Would you like to, in a hurry to pass this, or would you like to defy it and work with the community to come up with right density? Is there any room for negotiation with the community and the developer?
I'm in no hurry to pass it. I believe the developer is on more of a time constraint due to a contract or option on the land. But I would love to have more community meetings and get more discussion and get more ideas, because just some of the ideas that arrived via email today were excellent, and it would have been great to have those, a month ago. But as people are thinking about it more and willing to accept that in life there will be some change, but maybe we don't have to do all the change right now, that would be great.
Yeah, my concern is, if as a commissioner, if we pass this, you will have your negotiation room will be greatly limited, because if we pass as is, the development community will have right to build up to 43 units. However, because this is policy-wise a right approach, and personally I feel the 7 units facing Neely's Bend will be a bit too much. So maybe I would love to see more better transition in that space, and you can work with the community. So I am. If you are in favor of deferring, I would like to suggest to defer so you can work with the community and developer.
And Commissioner, generally we like to get all the commissioners to talk so that because every commissioner has value and a different perspective. Some of us are architects, some are council members, some are professionals, and so we try to get before.
I'm open to hear from other commissioners. I'm just expressing my
We
personal
appreciate
opinion.
that.
But yes, I would love to hear from other commissioners as well.
Commissioner Moore.
So I definitely agree that this is appropriate for the area within the policy, and I think it's a smart design. But from, I think, the conversation that I've heard so far, it seems like there's just a bit of room for negotiations, especially from some of the input from the community. I'm not sure about deferral. I'll listen to the rest of my fellow commissioners, but.
Chicago.
Excuse me, I agree. I think it's certainly much better than the base zoning that's there now. I think that I agree with Commissioner Johnson. I think there is a certain rhythm to this section of Neely's Bend Road that would be nice if that little section kind of fit in a little better. But on the whole, I think it's good if we can get deferred and get the neighborhood more involved and resolve some of these issues. Would be handy, but.
Commissioner Sims.
I just have a question about what a cedar glade conservation is.
So I did see in some of the comments a mention of cedar glade, and so I did do some research on TDEC's website, which keeps a kind of a database of known cedar glades in Middle Tennessee. And essentially, what a cedar glade is kind of an open area that has exposed rock, typically limestone. They're called barren glades in some other areas. A lot of them are located within the central basin of Tennessee, and they're mapped on the TDEC website. There are a couple in Davidson County, but not in this area. And so while there may be the presence of cedar trees on the property, that does not necessarily mean that there is a cedar glade. It is a unique ecosystem that's more of a barren landscape with exposed rock.
Thank you. Because of the letters, I was just worried that we really were getting ready to do something with a conservation overlay that we didn't know about. So I usually have neighborhood written all over my forehead, and I'm the strongest advocate. There is no reason why somebody couldn't bring a plan tomorrow for an OG, though, and have a lot worse situation going on here than they do right now. If I do my numbers right, I think there's 38, and we're at 43. So we are so close. But I do like to also yield to the authority of the position of the councilwoman. So this one's hard. This one was harder than some of the harder ones. So I think I'm going to, bottom line, we're about making decisions about what's right with zoning, and I think this is an appropriate zoning, and I actually think this is a really good plan. There's a couple of conditions I would like to add if we decide to pass it, but other than that, I actually think it's good. So.
Okay. Vice Chair?
I was thinking the same thing, which is the alternative of what could be built there today is, I don't even know how it ever got zoned with the OG. It seems like that would have been totally out of place, but
It's been that way since the 70s.
Yeah.
It was MO, which was medical office zoning in COMZO before it was rezoned with the new zoning districts in 1996 to OG. So it has been some form of office zoning since the mid-70s.
okay. I mean, when you look at the map like that, it does seem like the density there is a little out of place relative to the development pattern of the adjacent couple streets. But when you look more broadly, you do see that there definitely are some clusters of higher density. I was actually wondering for the applicant if they had considered, instead of having every single house, if you'd considered some attached homes so that maybe you could get the same number of units, but a little bit more space between them. So it was more in keeping with the...
I think that our preference would be to have the detached homes.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that, we could make allowance for some. If the neighborhood wanted some attached housing there, I'm sure we could probably talk about that.
I mean, that might help at least with the Neely's Bend, trying to get the flow a little bit less
Now, I can see
dense.
the value in that, sort of maintaining the rhythm that you're used to seeing as you come down Neely's Bend.
Right, that might be one option. But no, I think that it's always hard to add a lot of units. We always have traffic concerns. We always have concern with changing land use density pattern. But we also have a huge need for housing in the city, and we have to take that into account. But it's got to go somewhere. So I think this makes sense. I think it's an improvement over what's currently zoned for. So I would vote to support staff's recommendation, or I'll make a motion to support staff's recommendation.
Second.
Yeah, so there were some conditions that
Oh, okay.
had, Vice Chair, that potentially put in there, and the director's going to mention those maybe if you want to stick with them, if that's okay with you, Vice Chair. Okay.
So if it's the
Director.
sense of the commission that you want to put forward a motion, the conditions that I heard were to require a tree protection plan, and it might be helpful to clarify where, but we talked about the edge of the property, but I can come back to that and clarify. And then requiring the conservation easement as well to the area that's designated as open space. And do you mind if did I miss anything on the conditions? Those were the two that I heard.
Well, and Commissioner Sims said she had.
We've got, except for one, we had several suggestions in these letters about having a stone front, being more careful to look like it looks like it fits in the community. So I'm not sure how we say that, but the front of it to look like more like the rest
Staff,
of the
could we
neighborhood.
get some advice about saying something about material or,
So I would maybe suggest something a little more flexible, like including stone accents in the architecture, so that you would avoid something where you may have very different materials along the front and the sides. But if you said to incorporate stone, then it might be that it would be at the foundation or as accents to not necessarily mimic, but to respect.
right, the existing context? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Anything else, commissioners? I think we covered it.
Yes, just one question. The buffer from existing the corner house between Neely's Bend and new development, is there any buffer over there?
There is a landscape plan that is just not, so we show you kind of the site plan, but there is a landscape plan that does include buffering along that entire, most of it would be existing trees that are to remain. And so there is landscaping along that entire shared border between this and the residences south, kind of really east.
Yes, so in that buffer, if, that tree protection, if it's, cedar tree, protected cedar tree was there, just really kind of be making sure those tree species are protected.
Oh, right, and I think there weren't any cedar glades on this property. So, but we'll look at the landscaping plan and make sure that that trees are protected to the maximum extent possible, and then if there's needing to be extra planting, that's incorporated into the landscape plan.
My clarification is that the conservation/preservation, whichever word it's should be, easement, that is where the tree protection plan would be of what trees remain and are not cut down during construction. Because what doesn't need to happen is that there happens to be a tree where the stormwater pipe needs to go. And obviously what's more important is we can replace the tree elsewhere in that situation, but sometimes stormwater goes where stormwater wants to go. So the tree protection plan would be within that conservation easement of what trees must remain.
Okay. All right.
All right, so it's a complicated motion by the vice chair.
Yeah, very creative.
So it's a motion to approve staff recommendation with the
These
following
three conditions.
condition, which is a tree protection plan, the conservation easement,
The
and
stone accents.
the stone accents. That's a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? And before we vote, the councilwoman can control this process. So even though we don't defer tonight, she can defer later on in the process to and work with the community to make sure that the plan is where it needs to be. Just a clarification for the commissioners and the citizens. So there's been a motion second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and it's passed with those conditions. We are on to item number 23.
T3.
This is a request to rezone from RS 7.5 to RM6. Staff recommendation is to approve. This is a portion of two properties located along Anderson Lane and Madison.
Hold on one second. Hold on. If everybody could take their conversations outside the room, that would be great. Thank you.
The surrounding, this is a portion of 2 properties located in Madison along Anderson Lane. It's, the surrounding land use is single-family residential and vacant. The policy is T4 neighborhood evolving. There is maintenance policy right across the street from Anderson Lane. However, the northern portion of Anderson Lane is a mixture of different intensities and uses. Also, as you can see, this site is located along a collector and in between 2 arterials. The arterials have a higher concentration of land uses and intensity. This policy aims for moderate intensity with a mixture of housing types. When intensity is higher, it's supposed to be located along a corridor. Since this development, or since this rezoning has proposed a zoning that would allow for a moderate intensity, and it's located along a corridor, staff recommends approval.
Thank you. We'll open this item for public hearing. Is the applicant in the room? Come on up, and you've got 10 minutes, and you can save 2 of the minutes for rebuttal of the 10. Welcome. State your name and address.
Jeff Parnell, 104 Grace Drive.
There you go.
Jeff Parnell, 104 Grace Drive. Jordan did a good job. All I would say is that the T4 neighborhood evolving community character in this area makes a lot of sense. The people that decided that this area should be that, I agree with that. I think that was a good assessment of this area. Myatt Drive and Gallatin Road on either end of this corridor are huge arterials. Anderson Lane has been a pretty busy collector street. Goodness, I've been around here for 47 years. Took my first test drive at Earl Dunn Pontiac, so that was on that street. I've seen it be a busy street forever. It makes sense that this area be developed. And these 2 vacant lots, amazing that they're still vacant, to be honest, but we're requesting to go from RS 7.5, which allowed 6 units, to go to RM 6, which would allow 8. We actually talked to Metro Planning staff several occasions, actually, about the different options and what we ought to do. They were the ones that suggested we go to RM 6. So that is what we are requesting, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. And we'll save 2 minutes for rebuttal. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in support? Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome.
I'm Lauren Matthews. I own the property next to these 2 vacant lots, the 1.3 acres. I actually had no intention of coming up here tonight, but this is a very personal thing for me. It's the first home I've ever purchased, and after 8 years, I decided in Madison, because it was the only place that I truly could have privacy. I had some land, so this is a very emotional thing for me. I cried when I got the letter, I'll just tell you that. I obviously knew that things were going to change. I knew that something was going to develop there. I work from home, and I can't imagine for the next 2 years or however long this is going to take that I am going to have to experience that. You know, I love Madison. I think it's a great place to live. I think it's a great place to grow a family. I just can't imagine living next to 8 homes side by side right next to me when I look out the window. You know, and I do have a question. I mean, I look at these properties, it's 2.6 acres total, and it looks like only the front portion is being developed. Is there any concern?
Well, thank you for the question, and we'll get to that after. And if there's more questions, ask us, and then we'll get to that.
No, again, I just
portion.
came here to kind of hear, but I just had to come say something and speak my piece, so thank you.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up. Welcome.
I'm Jackie Christian, and I live at 523 Anderson Lane. This is Mr. Jerry Smith, and he lives at 521. I just want to give you a personal perspective of a homeowner in that area, okay? Anderson Lane connects Gallatin Road, and it connects Myatt Drive, which is the only last road that connects all the way across. It is used as a cutoff for the police, for the fire department, for ambulances, for people going to the elementary school to pick up their children and deliver. We are a 2-lane road. On my side, there is a sidewalk. This is on the same side as the property in question. There is a sidewalk that comes from Pierce Lane and goes to May Drive. It does not go down to Gallatin Road, and it does not go down to Mott Drive. On the other side of the property, of the street, it is ditches. There is no kind of reinforcement. The stormwater just gushes. The topography of Anderson Lane, it starts out at Gallatin Road, and it goes a little way, get up to the school, about halfway up the school, and it'll dip down. And at Pierce, it starts going up again, very much gradually. At Snow, there is a caution light, because as you travel Anderson Lane going to the east at Snow and the caution light, it becomes a roller coaster hill. You cannot see going up it. You cannot see over it. It goes down to my drive. That whole area across the road from the sidewalk, it's all just a little driveway here, a little driveway there, a culvert for the water.
Thank you, ma'am.
And just
Thank you, ma'am.
crumbling.
We appreciate it.
Each little driveway would have a culvert for water.
Thank
okay?
you for coming in. Your time's run out, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sir, welcome.
I'm Jerry Smith. I live next door to her. She's a good neighbor. Has to be to bring me out here this time. But anyway, I'm opposed to this because if they want to build a house like ours, fine, great. But want to build more than one, it's getting ridiculous what we have to put up with, especially the storm water that comes down. My side yard and backyard are now in my neighbor's backyard because of all the water that comes down through there. Rain, it's really been bad.
And I would add to that from coming down the hill with all the gravel and all that stuff, it becomes dangerous. Cars go up it and slide. It goes down to a school. They have taken one lane of Anderson Lane going west at Pierce Avenue in front of the Ampley Elementary and have permanently blocked it. So at that point, you have one lane and you have the school guards directed. There is a backup going east on Anderson Lane when the people line up to turn on Pierce to turn into the school. And it goes past, a lot of days past this property you're looking at. It's a safety issue. Issue with the stormwater and the infrastructure. Since they built 25 houses behind this project to the west, they put 25 houses in there adjacent to this property. The same people who are doing this or who did that on all the way back to this property that's not developed.
Thanks, y'all.
You change it.
Ma'am, thank you. We appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none. No, ma'am, your time has...
Question for you. Who do I go to really voice all of this on paper?
So after the meeting, the director and I will come and talk to you, okay? We'll take care of you because we want to make sure that everyone is taken care of. So we'll have the team, our staff team, they're really good, and so we'll come talk to you, okay? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? All right, 2-minute rebuttal.
heard two issues being brought up, one being stormwater. From the stormwater perspective, I can promise that we will meet and exceed the stormwater regulations for development in Metro Nashville. We have already looked at that, and there's a 24-inch culvert that's crossing over Anderson Lane, and we will be picking up that water and conveying it. We will end up having to do a sidewalk along, and the sidewalk was mentioned as well. We will be adding sidewalk to the area. And the other issue was privacy. I can't solve the privacy issue. It's two forested vacant lots. That's gorgeous. I wish it could remain that way forever, but that's not reality. What I can say is, and this was brought up in the last discussion as well, if you connect the units, that allows more green space. And so that's one of the reasons that I believe Metro Planning pushed us toward the RM6, was because that would allow us to connect the units, continue to have more green space, and potentially keep additional forested area between us and the neighbor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Council lady?
All right, now I'm an expert.
Now you are an expert.
I'll do what I should have in the beginning and thank you guys for serving. I mentioned it the first time. I appreciate your time. I know you spend a lot of time doing this all the time, and I'm thankful that I haven't had to be here until now. And thank you very much, council ladies, for all of the work you're doing as well. So, you've gotten a couple of emails about this. I got a couple of phone calls from Nelson Riddle at 812 Delaware. His summary was no way whatsoever. Don Lee, 315 Sarver Avenue, said he would like single-family houses only. And I've mentioned this at 3 community meetings in January and 3 community meetings in February, but we have not had a presentation from the developer at any of the community meetings, and the consensus at each meeting from all of the attendees is we don't want multifamily, we want single-family residences. So there's no objection to have multiple houses on those 2 pieces of land, which are zoned RS 7.5. They just want them to be single-family residences. And that would be consistent with the other houses on that side and across the side of the street. So that's the input I've been hearing from the community.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Commissioner Gobble, you want to go first?
Well, I tend to think it's an appropriate use. I feel like I agree with staff. I understand the neighbors' concerns, but I think, we need housing, so I'm inclined to support it, but I'm willing to listen to my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Moore?
I also agree that it's appropriate, especially with it being in a neighborhood evolving policy. For the neighbor's question about stormwater from staff, can you just talk about the approval process with stormwater as development is being built, so she has some understanding?
Sure. So the way that it would work is that if rezoned and they would come in for building permits, at the time of building permits, there would be a stormwater review. They would have to turn in construction plans. Essentially what the regulations say is that you cannot increase runoff any more than what's being run off today. And so essentially post-development, you cannot have more runoff than you have pre-development. And so our stormwater department would review their construction plans and make sure that they're meeting or exceeding those standards. And at that time, they would look to see if there would need to be any sort of downstream improvements or anything like that. And so it's all reviewed in detail at the construction plan phase.
Okay. So yeah, again, I agree with staff's recommendation, but I'm willing to listen.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, I will be crying, if my next door lots of tree will be disappear. I totally understand it. Every time new development comes in, it's an emotional thing from the existing residents. However, considering Anderson Lane is a collector, considering that's a T4 community plan, so increasing density is just 1 unit. And sometimes having new development comes in and address stormwater issue after the construction kind of end up improving the stormwater issue. So nobody want to live next to the construction. I understand that. However, in this case, I agree with the staff recommendation.
Council Lady.
Thank you. So if any of y'all are my Facebook friends, you know that over the past 13 years, I too have had empty lots next to me, 3 empty lots next to me, in fact. And I have mowed them and taken care of them and pretended like they were my own until, unfortunately, a few months ago, they got clear cut and 2 houses are going in next to me. Unfortunately, the developer, and so a little recommendation, the developer and I have spoken, and he actually let me pick out the design of the house. I'm not going to put a condition on that, but that was very lovely of him, of something that could be because it was very emotional. I totally understand where you're coming from. Having said that, though, I know that those empty lots my fairy tale couldn't last forever. And it is nice to have less to cut and mow. And that we do need more housing in Nashville. People are moving here, and when I'm hearing about apartment complexes coming in where they told me the median rent was going to be or the average rent was going to be $2,700, we need housing in Madison that isn't going to be $2,700 for rent a month. And it sounds like this is a type of project that would be that way. And the fact too that I mean, maybe I'm reading this wrong, Director, but we are upzoning, but the traffic count is going down. Is that a misprint, or is it actually possible to upzone and reduce your traffic count? Is this a unicorn?
No, it is possible because it's based on the trip generation manual. Very technical, super fun book, but it'll tell you the number of trips that would be generated by a single family versus the number of trips that would be generated by a multifamily, and sometimes it is less for a multifamily.
Okay. So really, at the end of the day, it's a T4 neighborhood evolving. And so this area is evolving, and we're going to see more of these coming in, and we need the housing. And so you haven't spoken, but I am in favor of the rezoning.
Vice Chairman.
I just wanted to clarify the question regarding the development. It does look like those are 2 long lots, but it's, is it only are they only doing half the lots?
Correct. The request is to rezone just the front portion of the lots, sort of evening up with the properties that are just to the west.
Okay.
If we understand it correctly, the back portions would likely extend the existing street and develop under the existing zoning.
The back, oh, I see, the one behind it. Okay. Okay, I just wanted clarification on that. I agree. I think that this makes sense, and I support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Sims.
I have no questions.
I would need a motion.
Move for approval.
There's a motion for approval and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and stopped. Now, we are on to item 24, which was pulled by a commissioner, and I want to, before we start, let's see if we can maybe answer the question without potentially going into a public hearing. But is there anyone here in opposition on item number 24? There is none. So this was pulled by a commissioner. Commissioner, what is the question? And maybe we can get that answered on the record instead of having to
Both
go through
have questions. Yeah, sure.
public record.
So last time we were here, there were a number of council, there was a number of constituents that had clearly were interested and upset about this. And they had voiced that there had not been a community meeting. And so I wanted to know if we have heard from the council lady if there has been a community meeting. And then secondly, my concern is that there wasn't a community meeting, is that just because there's no opposition here tonight, there was very vocal opposition last time. My concern is that to the average citizen, they might not know that this is when this is back up. And so my concern is there was a lot of people who wanted public input last time. And I have a lot of concerns about, I would like to see the presentation about the stormwater and about the greater plan of how this would connect to the properties around it, because this has been a controversial area for this district, which is kind of across the street from my district and kind of within the bounds of the neighborhood association I represent.
All right, well, let's hear without objection, we'll hear the presentation.
Okay, this is a rezoning from R40 to R6 zoning. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. The proposal is for a property located in West Nashville on Watts Terrace. The surrounding land use is single family and 1 and 2 family residential. The policy is T3 suburban, neighborhood evolving, and conservation. The goal of this policy is to create building types in relation to the corridors. The surrounding land use being single family residential and surrounding zoning being R40 to the south and RM15 to the west. This creates a transitional zone between those two. Also wanted to point out that the zoning across the street from Watts Terrace is R6, which is consistent with the proposal. Staff recommends approval with the condition that half the right-of-way be dedicated to meet the road improvements along Watts Lane, or Watts Terrace.
All right, we'll open this item for public hearing. The applicant has 10 minutes, and you can save 2 minutes of the 10 minutes for rebuttal. Welcome.
Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Roy Dale with Dale & Associates. This was on a prior meeting. Y'all had a really long agenda that night, and so I deferred this and met these individuals out in the hallway. We talked for about 20 minutes. The council member said that she would have a community meeting. I called her tonight just to make sure. She said that she did have one meeting and that there would be another meeting. So this plan, I actually want to back up just a little bit. Since I have 10 minutes, I might as well use it.
You should use the 10 minutes.
There's a lot of confusion sometimes about me. I'm not a developer. I want you all to know that. I've not cut down a single tree or graded any house. I've never built a house. I've never done anything other than my own house. Since I speak for so many people, people just assume that I am a developer. I'm not. I'm just like you. I'm sort of a facilitator, and I like to make things, I like to bring things to the commission that are adopted, that go with the policy. I like to have community meetings. I do a lot of work. And so I'm very serious about that. A lot of people call me on a daily basis about what they can do. I steer them in the right direction, hopefully. And in this case, there's actually 3 things that y'all sort of consider. That one's like subdivisions. Obviously, you do that all within yourself. And I want to have community meetings. I want to make sure that I'm satisfying your needs. Community plan changes are very similar. But when it comes up to just a plain zone change request, I really look to the council member, and I do what the council member asked me to do. And so the night after I met with these constituents, I asked this council member what would she prefer me to do. And she said, I will set up a community meeting. So I left it in her hands, as I should, because it is, in this case, this is a recommending body. And on a base zone change, you are recommending based upon land use policy. You're not really considering a whole lot else. So there was a meeting, I've been told. There will be another meeting. As far as stormwater is concerned, anytime we develop in Davidson County, we have to meet the requirements of stormwater. Someone from stormwater is here. These properties will develop as an infill, and so each parcel will have to create its own stormwater. And in many instances, as Commissioner Johnson mentioned before, a lot of times you can actually improve stormwater. And we try to do that on projects, especially larger projects. If there are things that we can do for the community to better the community, that's what we want to do. In this case, this road's a very narrow road, and so this developer will have to widen this road, which will probably benefit this community as well. This is adjacent to RM15 zoning, which I thought was quite strange that there'd be something that dense there. Across the street, all of those properties are R6, and this faces the R6 properties. So it conforms to your land use policy. Staff is recommending approval. I'm here to answer any other questions that I can, but I think that's pretty much it. I think you need a pay raise, but I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. We'll double our zero pay.
0 to 0.
0 times 2. 0. You'll have 2 minutes for rebuttal. Appreciate you coming down. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in support? Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Are you finished, Mr.? Okay, and so we'll pass the rebuttal. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Council Lady, would you like to go first?
Is the zoning request to R6 or R6A? The staff report's got, up here says R6, and then the.
I'm going to answer that.
Okay.
It's R6. That was a typo. I just saw it just a minute ago.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to point it out if it was just a typo.
Clarification.
Okay, well, what we'll do is, I'm sure when if hopefully y'all will go through the motions of the community meeting, and if there are more constituents concerned, they'll get another letter for, and I'll hear round 2 at council.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, I think question to the staff. I think during the presentation, it was the easement or set aside for the Watts Lane widening. And will this developer be responsible for the widening for that part, or just set aside the Metro is coming to widen later on?
The condition of approval is that they would dedicate the right-of-way needed to meet the Metro standard of 50 feet. And then at the time that they come in for building permit review, Public Works would look at how much pavement they need to widen. So that's handled with building permit.
So during the building permit, so the whomever responsible for the development will be improve that infrastructure street?
They
widening?
typically have to pave up to bring it up to the width that's required by Public Works standards.
Okay. And also, do we have any standard for, this area's T3 neighborhood evolving? So change request is R40 to R6. So it's about 6 times more density. So do we have any formula for the evolving, what kind of skip, density will be appropriate, or?
No, there's a range of zoning districts that are appropriate within each policy area. Neighborhood evolving can go anywhere from RS 7.5 up to RM 40. Not every zoning district is appropriate in all locations, but given that there is R6 immediately across the street from this and a much more intense zoning to the west, this is a little bit more interior, and so we felt like this was an appropriate location for R6, especially given that that is the zoning that's across the street and that has been developing across the street.
Okay,
so no, there's no formula. It's a range. We evaluate every site on its own merits.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Sims.
I just want to thank you for bringing back up. I think when neighbors have problems, it's often we don't revisit it the way we should, so thank you.
Vice Chair.
I've never seen such a long list for the fire marshal recommendations. Is this right?
It's another typo. No.
No, it is.
It's a huge building.
I think if you'll look through the staff report, you'll see a lot of comments like that for the fire marshal. They are really taking a very close look on the front end of developments, and so that people have an understanding of what is required in regards to the fire code, so that there's not a question when they come in for building permit.
But it talks about like a 200-foot building, 200-unit building would need this, so they just include everything.
The
so
standard
everybody-
set of comments. That's right.
Interesting. All right. Well, I will make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
That's a proper motion and second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And we are on other business. Nothing in historic, nothing in parks. Executive committee, we don't have anything right now, except lots of meetings.
Lots of meetings?
Well, more than one a month.
Oh.
We kind of go through Christmas in January, so
We have another meeting this month.
yes. Director, do you have anything you'd like?
Well, I just wanted to let folks know that tomorrow I'll be presenting a proposed budget to the mayor's office and other folks from finance. We are making recommendations to increase staff resources, particularly in the areas around neighborhood and community engagement. A proposal I want to make you aware of is coming out of Greg's team, we looked holistically at the county and want to make a proposal to have specific staff assigned to certain parts of the city. We think that given the size of the county and the diversity of the growth issues, ecosystems, urban, suburban, rural, that it will be really helpful to have staff that can build relationships with council members and community members and really talk fluently about what's going on the ground. We're even considering a scenario where we would have staff located in those areas, maybe once a month or once every couple weeks, have them housed there so they'll be more accessible. We hope that that meets some of the mayor's goals around community engagement, so we'll see how that goes. We're also making a proposal around infrastructure investment. There are a lot of parts of our city, as you know, that are changing from industrial to residential, or that are grappling with, an urban design framework. We don't have complete streets. It's very difficult for our land development team to make those decisions on a case-by-case basis. And so our hope is that we can really build up the department to meet the city's needs as it is today. But having said all that, we know we're in a difficult budget moment, and so we think it's important to give a realistic picture about what the department's needs are so that, as we consider our finances and the like moving forward, there can be a realistic conversation about the city's needs and our department's roles in that. So I think that's all I have. I think we have a meeting we need to go to.
Yeah, we do have a meeting we need to go to soon. Council, anything on the legislative?
Move for adjournment.
That's a proper motion. We're adjourned.
Good luck.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.